cases, it's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu hawaulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who are
were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting, people went there, sat, listened, looked at him, there was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we may find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice. When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill...
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human, everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea today. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Hello? The phone is working. Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Bad.
Abbas, you have said good morning properly.
Good morning.
How are you doing? It's over. Done. Finish.
Are you representing
finish.
a party?
Ooh, Excuse me, can you see what I see?
Ametoka Katonzweni.
Nini.
Usitishe bwana. What are you saying?
Nessa.
What are you saying?
Watch out.
Now you. I worked in Ndalani for a year. I'm telling you this. I was saying this. It's a lot. You know, I should sit and tell you the story of my life.
This is of you what? You have stories from Kwale. Yeah. You have stories from Malindi.
Cambridge.
Yeah, you know, Ilianza na Cambridge.
This is not about me. This is actually about Dennis Okari's shirt.
Yeah.
This is where the story is. No. We are seeing what you are doing, and those diversionary tactics will not work. All right?
So
your yellow T-shirt is begging attention. Good morning.
Bright, huh?
No, it's beautiful. People who wear bright colors.
Even me, when I was wearing it, I was like, "What? I've never worn such
People who wear bright colors are confident, ambitious individuals."
Mm-hmm.
Even though
please continue.
So now you're feeling it. You're feeling it, Abi?
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning. Is it me or the brightness came in early today?
The sun is set. It's not setting. It normally rises.
The days
first.
are longer.
The days are longer. Actually,
the days are longer. They've started.
You're getting into the summer nights. Oh, those summer nights in Nairobi.
I drove in. I'm like, what? This is serious.
Oh wow. Okay, Aseto, how are you? Go fresh. Uko kabisa.
What up? You good?
I'm good.
You doing well? Akucheki. Kikisi munata. Okay, whatever that means.
You don't even know what it means.
Usinizimie taa. Just leave it on.
This is the point where I walk out.
No. Sit where you are.
And go where?
Sit where I went.
He's singing to you.
Oh, okay. But where do you say you want to go?
What was that you're singing?
That jump. Kick isimnata. Usinizimie taa.
Which language is that?
What language is that? Yeah.
It's a Luo love song.
Okay.
What you just said is Luo?
Yeah.
Repeat that again.
Kick isimnata.
No, Aseto is wearing it.
No.
Haijatoka Kijaluo. There's a way it's supposed to come out.
Okay, so we'll seek the ancestors. The Jaduong.
Okay.
Sindio? Lakini, now that we have confirmed that everybody's doing okay, I'm back. That everybody's doing okay. Good morning once again. You know how you go to an event? I understand why people say that thing. Good morning, then people say good morning. Then they say good morning once again. And
it happens a lot even in church.
Why? You've said it. And the fact that you
praise
have to
the
say
Lord.
Praise once again, meaning are you trying to establish that they didn't hear you, they didn't answer the way you wanted. So good morning once again.
I didn't hear the oomph.
Oh, you wanted it to come properly.
With a punch.
Okay.
And you also want people to changamka.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Not to come with a punch, with a punch.
With a punch.
Yes.
If he leo amekuja aki hop, step and jump.
I know.
Like a fresh spring rabbit. Bunny. Yeah. So she said today is going to be a good day. So because she has said it, so shall it be. And I have an egg.
Where's the other one?
Oh my God.
They always come in pairs. Where's the other one?
What's happening? Well, I was away.
You want? You don't want? Egg.
Huh?
You don't want?
You want to give me?
Do you want?
No, you want to give me?
I'll give you.
Okay, I want
take.
an egg.
Okay, take.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
What else?
I'm just chilling.
Okay.
I'm just seeing eggs flying around, but it's fine.
Yikes. All right.
That headline.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 10 will shock you. Spice FM presenters sharing eggs in studio.
Number 10 will shock you. Number 10. Hey. Wala la la la. Do that with that as you wish. Right.
Don't worry, I don't have 2 sausages.
You had
2
all you
eggs.
had, so you're okay. Fantastic.
No, thank you for the egg.
You're most welcome. You know, for you guys, me, I'll do anything.
I know.
You know, I just wanted you to know that. If I've never told you, I will. Eve, I'm just declaring it publicly. You tell the world is ending and something I can do can be done. Me, I'll do. For you, I'll do. Even Joylene. And I don't know who else is inside there before I make promises that I won't keep.
Kevo.
And Kevo has to return our proper chair first. Then we talk about how I'll lay down my life for you. Sindo. Christine, uko salama mali uko? Sorry?
Your dress is giving life.
Thank you very
beautiful.
much. Thank you so much. What?
Yeah.
Aseto, you know you good.
No. Acha niseme nitoke.
No, who are you? Sema kutoka.
Naseme nitoke. That dress. So you see, the thing is, the dress does not make you look good. You make the dress look good. There's a difference.
Joylene is here whispering. You know me, I'll just say. Joylene has come to whisper to Dennis Okari, and we can hear what you're saying. Okay, guys, we're getting into it this morning. We're already on the 4th day of November. And wow, today is my friend Afum's birthday. Afum is my friend. Do you have, you guys, a very beautiful Nigerian girl who lives in Nairobi as well. Her name is Afum. Thank you very much, by the way, Dennis. You do things for my ego. For Asante. Yeah, thank you, EVE. Not leaving things untold. So, Santi Sana, Mr. Aseto. So, yeah, like I said, today is the 4th of November. It's my friend Afum's birthday. Afum, good morning and happy birthday. And as we get into the morning, there are many things. Yesterday, I was on the bulletin, news desk, 1 o'clock on KTN.
You're part of the swearing in.
I did not read one story of news because I finished the bulletin at 1:56 with a one-liner.
Yeah.
Because before that, now President Samia Suluhu Hassan was being sworn in a closed-off military ground that was closed off to members of the public, and only invited dignitaries and guests attended the swearing-in ceremony, whereby she said a number of interesting things, by the way. But the one person who said something, I remember Hakainde Hichilema was there, and he said a number of things because he understands the struggle. If you are emotionally intelligent, if you are politically
smart,
thanks, you would have heard the words that he was saying in the moments that he said them. Samia Suluhu then went on to say that the people, she said this during her speech, that the people who were arrested were people from outside Tanzania. So this thing you're talking about is not Tanzanians. They were brought. They came in from another country.
Basically, she was just saying it's
telling
Kenya.
you what exactly is going on.
She was saying it's Kenya.
Right. So it was very interesting. And in so the hour before, it was arrival of guests. There was music, all kinds of things. And then she came in. Hichilema spoke, and Evariste from Burundi spoke. And then she came in and gave her speech. And in an hour, cars would disappear and everybody took off. There was representation. President Ruto sent Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, and that representation was there from Somalia. There was representation from Uganda and a number of other countries in East Africa.
The Somali president was present.
He was. The Somali president was there. He was, and. We are looking at a situation where she takes over, and she said these investigations are going to be done in terms of who these people are. So the intrigues around this and the intricacies,
they will be dealt with.
They will be dealt with. That they are Tanzanians is something that she's not ready to accept, or maybe she knows and she's not ready to say it publicly, because what does that do to you? So why am I saying all this? Because we will be having a conversation round about Tanzania in one of the conversations that we have this morning, and the eye on Tanzania with Kwamchetsi Makoha is the Kenya Human Rights Commission board. He's a member of the Kenya Human Rights Commission board, and Dr. Nicodemus Minde is a researcher at the Institute for Security Studies. These gentlemen will join us at 7 o'clock, and we're having a look. We'll keep an eye on Tanzania and what it looks like in the coming days, and we'll take into consideration all the things that people have been saying and have said through that inauguration yesterday. It's important that we do. Bishop Titus Hamala is the Member of Parliament for Lurambi constituency. He joins us at 8 o'clock. The politics of tokenism. We're still seeing some heavy stuff, Kenya being the world and the world being Kenya is gearing up for the by-elections that come the 27th of November and wooing Western and 2027 politics. Western bloc of the country has been seen as the bloc that is needed to tip the vote in one direction or another. And now, who do you see in Western? The president. What is he doing? Solidifying what he sent his boys to do before, and maybe according to him, they didn't do it just quite right. So what does this all look like in the politics of the day? We'll talk about that at 8, and then we'll round things off with Dr. Charles Mungai. He's Secretary General of the Kenya University Staff Union, KUSU. Guess what? They're still on strike. We're getting into week 7. And people have said, you know what? Until you pay atuendi. We had the Students Association president of the University of Nairobi here on Friday. And the stories he told, we think it's just a strike. People have not been paid, so they're not going to go to work. It's not just a strike. There are lives of young men and women that are stopped. And you say, okay, it's just 6 weeks, you'll catch up. No. There's opportunities that will pass you by and that you'll have to then break an arm and a leg in order to then achieve them. So we're going to be looking at this. Is there an end in sight? We'll talk about that with Charles Mungai at 9 o'clock. So that's what it looks like for folks. A lot for us to talk about, things for us to lend our voices to in terms of discourse. So let's do it right here on The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation on this 4th day of November, 26 minutes after 6 o'clock. Dennis Aseto, Dennis Okari, Okoh here with you this morning, getting into those conversations where we comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. EVE is setting things up in the back, and Christine is making sure that you get a chance to watch the show later on. So thank you for joining us, and we always say thank you as you do. You took us to Mauritania yesterday. All right, sir.
Yeah. So it is a country that was colonized by the French from 1903 to 1960, gained independence November 28th, 1960. Now, the first president, Mokhtar Ould-Daddah, and the country experienced several military coups, the last major one in 2008. But one thing that stands out in this country is it abolished slavery officially in 1981. The last country in the world to do that, but as we speak today, slavery-like tendencies still exist in the country. So the last country to abolish slavery in the world, but still that does exist, explains why perhaps it's the last country to have done that. But let's go to the proverb, right? Shall we? Yeah. The tree that grows crooked will never be straightened.
The what that did
tree
what? Okay.
That grows crooked will never be straightened.
It's true. Are you waiting for me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I guess if it's set in the foundation, there's very little that you can do to change it along the way. So if you need it to go in a certain direction, you need to set it from the start. Like we talk about, if you're going to Mombasa and you're on Mombasa you're in Westlands, if you're not headed in that direction from the get-go, the likelihood of you ending up there then is, or if you're going to set something in cement, you want to have a particular pattern. If you don't work on the foundation, then it's gonna if it's gonna be bent, it's gonna set bent. So I think about what my mother says all the time, that you do it at the foundation, because after the foundation it's gone. There's nothing you can do to change it. You can alter it, you can move it, but it's already set. So we got to be careful, I think.
Spoken like Engineer Okoh's daughter.
Engineer Okoh's daughter is talking today.
Wow, okay. For me, it speaks of a number of things. So, habits are formed at a pretty early stage. And what is formed at that early stage then determines how it develops or the outcome. And so sometimes when you have a certain mindset, for example, or you formed a certain habit, it becomes then very difficult to change it later on, or impossible to correct it a bit later on. There's a scripture that says, spare the rod and spoil the child. There's a reason why it's talking about sparing that rod. when you're dealing with a child, because then later on it will become difficult to correct, because how will you then walk around with a rod and beat up a grown person?
Yeah.
So you develop those characters and discipline at a very, very early stage, because then once they get corrupted, it will be difficult, very, very difficult to change them. That's at an individual level.
Yeah.
At a country level, like in terms of leadership, what is coming to my mind is it reflects those decisions that you make early on, the promises that you make, and the decisions that you make will then set the stage to how you govern or how you rule for the next, in our case, for the next, 2 years. In the case of Tanzania, what Suluhu has just done sets the stage for what's going to happen for the next 5 years until the next election. So whatever she does now, and already she started speaking, like you're saying, she started already saying, okay, we're going to look for those ones who caused this and they're not from our country. We will deal with them. That statement alone is setting the stage for something that is going to happen later on during her presidency. So whatever it is that she does, she says, will determine how and what the direction our government then takes.
Yeah. I mean, there's another proverb in Swahili, samaki mkunja angali mbichi.
Oh, yes.
You know, so like when you have fish, if it's dry, if it's bent, that's pretty much how it'll be, right? But if you want to get steaks, especially if they're the huge cods, and you talk about tuna fish, if you want to get the perfect steaks out of it, you have to chop it when it's still fresh, you know, because once you refrigerate it, it's gone. You can't manipulate it whichever way you want to look at it. But it also speaks in terms of thinking with the end in sight, right? So you plan with where you want to end, and thinking about the future will then determine how you start going up.
True.
Exactly.
Very true. And so folks are tuned in this morning. We'll take a quick minute to say and acknowledge your presence as you are in the room today. As we acknowledge Dennis Okari's yellow t-shirt, we are loving this. You know, you've stepped out into, you've really come into your own, man. And, this is a proud moment for your friends. Desmond Oti says, good morning, happy Tuesday. Getting into it this morning with us, Desmond, thank you always for sure for being a solid part of the group. Wishing Ohunye better health, indeed. And look, I think he came out and he said it very publicly in terms of what's going on with him, so we can pray and we can, wish and hope him all the best and a proper recovery for Uhuru Kenyatta as he battles this, and all that he needs in terms of grace. Robert Nbogo says, good morning from Mombasa. Georgia Demo is tuned in from Rongo. Stephen Omori says, good morning, Spice, tuned in from Doha. Pan-African Kenyan is tuned in from Nairobi. And Boaz Naliana says, good morning from Kitale. I love it. That is all over the country, guys. And that you're tuned in from different corners. Thank you. Folks in Nakuru, tell us if you're able to hear us on terrestrial radio. That was sorted out yesterday. Do tell us if it's okay now. Sawa. Boaz Naliana, we see you. Santa Fe Eco Locked R, good morning to you. Tibbs Muge, good morning, SpiceFM. Shout out to Alex Peter Idoko, making art with fire. Show us. Kwama N, hey, you're here this morning. Good morning, D&D and the TSR team. Everybody, good morning. Aguto Ogembo says, good morning, Team Spice. Legacy politicians must think otherwise. Going toward politics of generational change is here knocking. I'm telling you, there's something simmering, and people have drank the water, and it's coming. David Mangera says, good morning, SpiceFM. Wishing all KCSE candidates the very best in their exams. Going into day 2, folks, may the road rise to meet you as you continue to write, and that all that you've learned and remember comes out on those papers this morning and into the next 3 weeks. Peter Goge says, good morning from Seattle. Always remember, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds you plant. Agola says, good morning. Jennifer Atenyi is tuned in this morning. Family locked. Iko from Kikuyu Road. Good morning, guys, says Erica Ward. Good morning to you. Hisa Daniel is tuned in. Good morning. Bernadito is also here. Good morning, Princess Ndu. Good morning. And Dennis Squared. They say Baba was a hardware, but Oburu is a software. ODM is in safe hands. Oh, okay. Sawa. My princess, good morning. Good morning to you. Samia Suluhu believes it is the neighbor's children who are demonstrating in her country. Oh, the neighbors used to pluck your guavas from the branch that was hanging. That's what she's basically said. It's your children that have come to pluck our guavas, not you. Samia Suluhu, Jimmy Munuthi says also, Salama za asubuhi. Nawatakia siku njema, asante sana. Sarah Kilonzo says, welcome to the biggest conversation room. Good morning. Wishing all candidates for KCSE all the best, including my son Humphrey. Yes, indeed. Best of wishes to everybody. Tanzania will never be the same again, politically, it would appear. Richard Udera says, good morning, Team Spice. Tuned in from Mikindani, Mombasa. If you see a poor man eating chicken, it's either he's sick or the chicken was sick. Ouch. Christina says, good morning. Jimmy Munuthi says, yellow is cool. Good on you, Dennis. Kimotoko says, good morning from Kinshasa. Josh Willie says, you guys, your smile gives people hope. Unaona, Dennis and Dennis, the way you smile. Somebody sees your smile and says, wow, okay, let's do this Tuesday. Let's get through Tuesday and push you to Wednesday. Meskia, Mr. Aseto.
Meskia.
Wangi Juma says, good morning. How are you all? Blessed Tuesday. What a hearty laugh. Ndu, vibes, tupu. What's tupu?
Tupu. Completely.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Let's laugh. It was the best day. Nobody can take it from you. Nyakundi says, good morning, my favorite team. I am really sad for Tanzania. Talk about that as we get into it at 7. Monica Oile, good morning, Spices. She won by 98%, but couldn't face the 2% to swear in. Nakwambia. It was, if 98% people voted you, why didn't you allow them to come and congratulate you? But wacha nisionge sana sahi. It in red. Is this red? This is like bright salmon. I knew it.
Bright salmon.
Bright salmon. Okay.
If you've ever eaten the fish, you know.
In Cambridge. White salmon. Hata uliza tu hapo kwa comments. Who has eaten salmon? Tumezoea mbuta. Tilapia, ngege.
Panla in Nigeria, panla.
She's talking about salmon. I didn't even know that's a color.
It is.
Salmon color.
Salmon, yeah.
Because the fish, the color of the particular fish is this color. What? Just leave me alone because you know exactly what you're doing.
I was about to say orange.
That's orange.
Yeah. What was that? If we pin you there, are you sure you...
Pin me there, let's see. If you help me, I beg. This guy. Agola says, Aseto usually has serious mystari. Ish, what's mystari?
Lines.
But waxing lyrical. Salam alaikum nyote, says Rogers Lion. Alaikum salam. Sir George Gashuri is tuned in. Better late than never, kabisa. The sisters, good morning. Looking forward to the day's discussions. Let's get through this quickly. Thomas Omosa says, waiting for the big conversation. We're getting into it. Joshua Mulwa says, good morning. Ambassador Beja, good morning. Aswan Omondi, we see you. Good morning. Christina, more mtoto umlavyo ndio. Umlavyo. Okay. Sour. Rutherford Maganga says, good morning. Hey. Please wish Coltrane Mwelesa. Are we wishing her? What are we wishing her? Good morning, N and Double D. This is James Kamal from South Sea. Just a fun fact. Did you know that Kenyan women have won 11 of the last 13 New York marathons, with Mary Kitani winning 4 times, in which 3 were in a row? It's amazing that Kenyans have been advocating for the longest time. The ambassadors for your country, your sports and entertainment people should actually be ambassadors for what is coming out of the country. Honestly, it's what Kenya's doing on the world map is unbelievable.
Does it better than
Nobody. Yeah, so hi SpiceFM crew says, Owen Amolu says, good morning. Peter Kiari, we see you. Good morning to you. Man of Nyavi, good morning. Hag Shav is tuned in from Nairobi. Lubang says, good morning. Diana Naburi is saying, Tanganyika hoye. Sawa. Kins and friends, good morning. Justine Yakambi, good morning, big family. The proverb is squarely fitting in with what's going on in our country. Sindio, Mutuflani, good morning. I saw Ndu somewhere. Okay, where did you see me? Good morning, fam. Good morning. Josh Nyakundi says good morning. And Sheila Masabi, good morning. Looking forward to today's conversation. Thank you, everybody. Karibu sana. Thank you so much for joining us in the room. Let's look into the headlines. Our time is ticking quickly, but had to make sure we say hello to everybody. On the front page of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, a bloody crown. Apart from Zambia's Hakainde Hichilema, whose own rise from a jail cell under Edgar Lungu Mnangagwa mirrors Tanzania's Tundu Lissu, most of the leaders who flocked to Dodoma for President Samia Suluhu's swearing in carried the same tarnish. Among them was Kenya's Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, hardened by last year's Gen Z protests that left scores dead. Together they stood, a fraternity of power honed in silencing dissent, shielding their regimes from scrutiny and securing victory through the shadows of disputed elections. And those are the pictures against the picture of her swearing it in. This is what Mohammed Ibrahim, who is a Sudanese British philanthropist, said. Banning opposition parties, shutting the internet and shooting at demonstrators, most of them young people, an election that excludes the opposition cannot be considered legitimate. It was also interesting because the 16 challengers from different political parties were also invited to this inauguration, and they were asked to stand up and wave. I thought, okay, wow, stuff it in our faces, why don't you? Retired Air Force officer wants JSC to remove Kome over misconduct, Kome being the Chief Justice. Lucky to survive, mudslide victims recall narrow escape. We know that happened in Elgeyo Marakwet. A new chapter opens as KCSC gives way to KCBE. It's happening. School principal goes missing after KCSE exam malpractice. Okay, I'm sure they can find him if they really want to. Opposition vows to field single 2027 candidate to remove Ruto. So they've come together yesterday. And, you know, they're doing the thing. ODM chiefs declare stand on mini polls. Okay, what will be the stand? They're not fielding anybody. Okay, so. All right, through some of the headlines. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, so let's go to the Daily Nation. And buried alive, it's disaster for residents of some villages in hilly Elgeyo Marakwet County. The events of the last 4 days are straight out of a horror movie. One moment they are full of life, sharing evening meals before going to bed. The next, they lie either lifeless or injured under heaps of soil and huge rocks. Their homes swallowed by the ground or pounded flat. Those are images of the aftermath of the landslide in Elgeyo Marakwet. Now, Samia sworn into office in a private ceremony, as well as on pages 2 and 3 as the story on the landslide that the country witnessed. And my brush with death in Tanzania. Lizzie Adundo Yogo was one of the international observers sent to Tanzania to monitor the elections. You remember the images that I showed you yesterday? This is her.
Oh,
it's
the one
Lizzie
that you were telling.
that I was telling
wow.
you about. Yeah, she's the one who's now giving out her story on what happened. And the ex-military men in failed coup case awarded 7.9 billion. Now, court faults government of disregarding orders issued in favor of the soldiers. Now, the government has been ordered to pay 7.9 billion shillings to more than 280 former Kenya Air Force soldiers and officers who were dismissed over the 1982 coup. How much are we talking about? 7.9 billion shillings.
Wow.
Okari, what do you have?
Kunaangalia story ya magamblers hapa, but let me start with politics. The Star. Gachagua to back Kalonzo, Natembeya and Matiang'i lineup. XDP won't run for president, but will get 50% of Kalonzo's government. There's a picture there of former Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya and Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka during their meeting in Karen. That was on 30th of October. And if we go to the story itself, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has reportedly agreed to support Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka's presidential bid for the 2027 elections. Okay. So this alliance comes as Gachagua, who was impeached last year, looks to reshape his political future while positioning himself strategically for a potential return to power. According to sources close to Gachagua, the former deputy president will not run for the presidency, but instead will receive 50% of Kalonzo's government should they succeed in defeating President William Ruto in the upcoming election. Now, an MP from central Kenya familiar with the negotiations remarked that the deal is done and sealed. In this arrangement, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya is expected to serve as Kalonzo's running mate, while Fred Matiang'i is slated for the position of Prime or Chief Minister. yeye atakuwa ma DVD.
I'm so confused.
Yes.
Did we not sit in this room when Fred Matiang'i told us that he is going to run for president? Or did something change?
Yes, he is. Kalonzo is also running for president. Gachagua said he's running for president. Eugene is running for president, but
Karua is running.
Karua is running for president. So all these guys are running for president. But the conversations, this is according to a close source. So the story is based on negotiations that are currently ongoing and what they've, the deals that they have already now made. So the deal is Gachagua is going to back Kalonzo. Is going, if they win, is going to take 50% of the government.
Okay, so his backing is only for Kalonzo. These other people are on their own.
Of course, backing Kalonzo means he's backing running mate as well, and the entire cabinet. They're all in conversations. Okay. So the idea here is Kalonzo is running for president, and then Natembe is going to be his deputy, and then Matiang'i is going to be the prime or chief minister. So further political alignments then now include Eugene Wamalwa, who is earmarked for the role of Speaker of the National Assembly, and Martha Karua, who may take on the role of Senate Speaker if she does not secure the Kirinyaga gubernatorial seat.
Okay.
Umeona hiyo mahesabu vile imeingia?
Hata haijai kabisa, imenichanganya. Because we're saying, so everybody's running for president, but there's a united opposition. Everybody's going to run for president, but in all of this running, Kalonzo is being backed by Gachagua to run, but they're still united for everybody to run for president. So in the event that they decide that this one person will run, Martha will run for Kirinyaga governor, but then also this Matiang'i, who's also running for president, if Kalonzo wins, he'll be given prime what?
Prime or chief minister. So here's the thing.
Then Natembe will be
the deputy
president for Kalonzo.
Yes.
But they're still united. But they're still all running for president.
It shouldn't confuse you, though. So this is how the politics is done in Kenya. So these guys will all try to raise their own stakes. So if we want to be a united opposition, you will come from your area and you will say, me, I'm coming with my people, I'm coming with my vote basket.
Right.
This is the deal, I'm running for president. Mimi as Okari, I'll go back to Kisii, I'll bring my Kisii people and I'll say, you know what, Mimi nimeleta kura wa Kisii wote, I'm running for president. Aseto,
you know what this reminds me of?
Yes. Yeah.
There's a series called Scandal, and in one of the episodes, there's a guy who's being traced, and he liked buying these cookies. So they put a tracing powder material on the cookie bag in the shop. So he bought the bag. So now from there, they could trace through a powder what he was, but he's also a bad guy. So he realized what was going on. So he left the shop, and then he touch somebody. Hi, excuse me, can you tell me where this person is? So he's left a trace here. He's left a trace here. He's left a trace here. So the people who are trying to trace him, they're not really sure, okay, so where is he? He's all over the place. I think this is what these guys are trying to do. They're trying to tell you, well, who are you going to zero in on? Because everybody is running for president. How are you going to say, let's tackle this guy? But then there are 5 other people who are also running. I think that's what they're trying to do. Confuse all of them. Confuse your enemies. Then now
what
you
I'm
don't know
getting
who's
here
coming
is
through.
Gachagua has decided that he would back the Kalonzo and Natembe ticket, right? But remember, we have all these other presidential candidates with their own ambitions. So what happens if others back, say, Matiang'i and Kalonzo ticket? Where does that leave Gachagua?
Well, to be honest with you, so what I think, I'm not privy to the details of this story in the Star, but what I think is they've all sat down together. And you know these guys are also smart. They're smart politicians. So what they will do, they will look at numbers and they'll say, okay, who amongst us? Because Gachagua, in all likelihood, it's been doubted that he's going to run for president. So the question here is, who else is coming with votes? Unajua ni uzito. So everyone can claim to be running for president, everyone, and that's what happens. But again, you can say you want to run for president, but you have 2 votes. Then there is somebody else who has 50 votes. There's somebody else who has 200,000 votes. The weight when you come to the table to now have a conversation obviously will be different, and they all know that there will only be one presidential candidate on that ticket, and there was going to be only one deputy. So the idea here is exactly what Kenya Kwanza did. So Kenya Kwanza, they had what? Ma DVD, who came with his own party. correct?
Yeah.
Madividi came with his own party. Madividi had always, Moitangula, everyone had always said, okay, I'm going to run for president. You're backed by your party. But then when you have now the roundtable conversation, like, okay, you know what? You take this position, you'll be speaker. Amason Kingi came with his own party. You'll be the speaker of the Senate. Moitangula, you will be the National Assembly speaker. And then who else? Mudavadi, prime cabinet minister. That's how these guys negotiate.
You know, one thing that they've not factored in is in all these conversations there is the person that Kenyans will want, and perhaps that is the candidate that might make it difficult for them to make that decision.
Very
Because
true.
If Kenyans say that is what you've sat down to discuss, but this is what we want, then that changes the conversation to, okay, this is what we want, but this is the person Kenyans want. If that gets to happen, we see what we'll decide. Yeah, that's
there's also the conversation of, okay, we want Tokyo Mtata.
Yeah.
We also want Maraga. The people who want that ticket.
Yes. Exactly.
They don't feature here.
Yeah.
So at some point, all this will come to play. It's still too early. It's still too early.
Days.
Yeah. So to my last story, and this one I was just reading Business Daily, and I thought this is interesting. So on page 4 they have a story. This has to do with regulation. Gamblers face forced shift and pension contributions. So what we're betting over the weekend, mekujiwa. So millions of gamblers will soon be forced to cede a portion of their betting stakes to the Social Health Insurance Fund and pension in line with legal changes that will make gambling even costlier. So the Gambling Control Act 2025 gives the betting regulator powers to develop policies that will, among others, include a mandatory savings component for SHIF or a social retirement benefit for every betting stake. Now, a mandatory pension contribution or payment to SHIF will make betting costlier, given that gamblers also pay excise tax on every stake at a rate of 15% and 20% as withholding tax for each winning bet. Now, the move looks set to widen the membership pool of SHIF and ultimately grow contributions under the newly formed scheme, which the state is relying on to provide medical cover for all Kenyans. So, the state takes 20% of every winning bet as withholding tax and a further 15% in excess tax for every betting stake. Now, the rates on the two taxes have been progressively increased over the years as part of the state's onslaught to discourage gamblers. Now, compulsory SHIF or pension deductions from every betting stake offer the government a windfall given the betting craze that we have in the country. So the mandatory SHIF contributions from betting stakes come at a time when the state health insurer is grappling with a 76 billion unpaid bill. So to target gamblers for every, what is it called? Stake.
Every stake.
There is money that will be deducted apart from the two that I mentioned, the two taxes.
Okay.
This will now be pulled into SHIF.
I have a
You have a question?
Yes, teacher.
So I just look at since SHIF started operating, right? How much has the government collected from Kenyans? Do we have that math?
Well, the numbers, gamblers spent an average of 1,825 shillings on betting a month last year. So they've got these figures, 1,825.
What?
An average. Like an average amount.
All right, I get it. Okay.
Is 1,825 on betting.
So in last year, how much did Kenyans spend on gambling?
Well, Kenyans placed an average of 274 million bets daily between July 2024 and March 2025.
So you take that and multiply that by 1,800.
So 274 M bets daily. Guys, this thing is deep, eh? Daily, eh? Not a week.
My head is aching.
This is I'm just reading the source is KRA and the Business Daily calculations, the story on page 4. So 274 million bets daily.
My question is, what on earth is the connection? Why did they decide that they want to go to folks who gamble to look for money for SHA? I mean, I don't see the connection.
Because when we were pushing for Kenyans to register on SHA, we never told Kenyans the truth that they have to pay for SHA. So you have 22 million Kenyans who are registered, but only 6 million are paying. So what are you doing? Many more Kenyans are playing in gambling, right? Low-hanging fruits.
So you go
Tax
to the
them
gamblers
because
and
you
say,
that is syntax. Chukua hiyo, leta kwa chief. At the end of the day, remember, still the over 18 million who are registered are still not paying. So you're trying to fix the problem without addressing the root cause
of the problem. You were asking how much SHA has collected since its inception. So as of the 31st of January, which is now, according the SHA had collected 20.9 billion shillings from the 1st of October. This number was as the 31st of January. So that number, obviously, because we're now a year later, do your math, give or take, it's more than that. But we're looking at, just under 40 billion shillings.
Yeah. So 40 billion shillings that has been collected. Do we have a breakdown on how that has been spent?
Well, we can find one, I'm sure. I'm sure we can.
So here we're looking at getting more money from the gamblers, right? From those who are gambling, put it into SHA. And the government is not really telling us how this money is going to improve the situation at SHA or SHIF.
But the question is, if it's syntax and it goes into this fund, because I assume it's one pool, they take the money from the tax, it goes into this pool, and you say, what we're going to do with it is that we're going to put it into the health system. The people that you've taxed, do they then have their premiums paid already? Or have they just contributed to you to do your thing with how you want to use the money? You see?
So does it also go to benefit those who are registered and have not paid for their premiums?
Yeah.
And if that is the question, then where is fairness for those who have paid and cannot access the services? I mean, there's an entire conversation around what the government is trying to do. Unless they say we're taking this money to develop hospitals and buy equipment and stock drugs, but people have to pay using their premiums and so on.
Yeah, so this is what I like what you just said. These are low-hanging fruits. So the point here is you're just trying to think, which group do we tax? If we hit the pay slip one more time, it's going to be drama. They'll come for us. So which group do we target and how do we do it? So you're looking at Kenya, which is home to the largest number of youthful gamblers in the continent, with 76% of the youth. And this is ahead of big economies like Nigeria and South Africa. Kenya is ahead. So you're looking at this group and you're thinking, okay, we're grappling with 76 billion unpaid bills to private and public facilities. How do we break down this figure so that we can pay this off and we still have money that will sustain this scheme? So you're looking at gamblers and you're thinking, wait a minute. So if we have 40.4% of Kenyans between 18 and 45 gambling daily, this is good money.
Do you know what? You know how when you're entering the compound, you can smell somebody leo anapika nyama.
Yeah.
Should I continue?
Continue.
I can smell corruption and impunity. Yeah, this thing.
Yes.
You want to tax people and put the money in a pool for which we don't know where it's going to go. Then you come and start telling us stories that induce tears, stories that touch the heart later. Oh, we can't. If it is not linked directly, if I am gambling, and I am not registered and I have not paid, I'm gambling and you tax me, that money better go towards my registration and my premiums. Don't come and tell me that you're going to tax me, put it in a pool somewhere, and then we don't know who it goes to.
Because you see, when I'm taxing you, Ndu, you've registered, say, on this app, right? So you register using your ID and all your details in there, right? That means if I am taxing you from this betting app, then the government should be able to link you to my account and let that be part of my premium.
That thing that's in your cup that you're drinking,
litigation.
It's working.
You see,
today.
litigation. Hey, hii itaenda kotini mbaya sana.
Proper. Yeah. My taxes should work for me. Syntax or not.
But it's going to be difficult. You know why? Because the Gambling Control Act 2025 gives the betting regulator powers to develop policies that will, now among other things, include this mandatory, the caveat here is mandatory saving culture. So they also want you to save.
No, you know what? I'm sorry, but you can't just keep pulling things out of a hat like a magician. You can't do that. Oh, you know what we've tried to do is that we're going to deliver universal health coverage, right? Then we say what we're going to do is that we're going to ask people to register or pay this. We're going to have 3 tiers or whatever. Somewhere down the line, you realize, okay, that's not working. Then you look around and you say, oh, wow, see, people are betting and they're spending money every day. Okay, let's go to them. You decide. Then tomorrow, what's it going to be? Then the next day after that, you say, okay, so long as you breathe air, give us a shilling so that we can pay for SHA.
Let me just
Come
tell you
on, it's going to
something
get
about
ridiculous.
the mandatory culture that is there. You remember Hustler Fund? There was mandatory saving. The government should tell us how much of that mandatory saving is and where that money went to. Because then again, if we don't know where mandatory Hustler Fund went to, definitely we are telling you we don't know where this mandatory saving culture of betting will go to. So I'm sorry.
Imagine it's 7 o'clock and I'm already dizzy. Thanks, Okari. Kabisa. That's where we are, guys, because I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm telling you, the air that you breathe, wait, you guys, you are laughing. Mark this date. Mark this date. They say if you want clean air, we are going to now start charging vehicles whose exhausts are not clean. Wait, the air that you breathe will be taxed.
Let me tell you.
Mark it. I told you.
It looks like a duck. Looks like a duck. Croaks like a duck.
And has webbed feet.
What?
It's 7 o'clock.
It is now 7 a.m. with ICEA Lion. Protect your today, securing your tomorrow.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. President William Ruto left the country last evening for Doha, Qatar, for the second World Summit for Social Development organized by the United Nations. The UN says 14,000 delegates are expected to attend the 3-day event, including ministers, civil society members, youth leaders, and private sector actors. Ruto's spokesperson Hussein Mohammed said the president will use the event to strengthen economic partnerships and attract investment. Ruto aims to ink bilateral infrastructure deals cutting across various sectors, including transport and energy. According to Mohammed, Kenya will lobby for more Qatari jobs when President Ruto meets His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, to add to the thousands of jobs taken up by Kenyans in the Middle East. The Kerogoya High Court has extended interim orders blocking the implementation of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act 2025. The ruling prevents the government from enforcing any provisions of the law until the case challenging it is heard and determined. The case was filed by activists and civil rights groups who argue that parts of the law violate fundamental rights, including freedom of expression, privacy, and access to information. They contend the law would grant security and government agencies broad powers to monitor, inspect, or seize citizens' electronic devices without clear legal safeguards. Attorney General Dorcas Odor urged the court to lift the orders, arguing that the law is crucial for tackling cybercrime, digital fraud, data theft, and the spread of false information that threaten national security and social welfare. 32 people are now known to have died after multiple landslides struck the Kerio Valley and Kibedo, Elgeyo Marakwet County. In the Kerio Valley, 4 more bodies, 1 male and 3 female, were recovered on Monday, bringing the total since last Saturday's tragedy to 32. Survivors continue to receive treatment at Moi Referral Hospital after being airlifted to Eldoret. In Kibendo, 2 people died following another landslide on Sunday night, while 3 others remained hospitalized after a house was destroyed. Residents told reporters what happened.
Kidogo kidogo tunasikia manguruma ya mawe akitokea huko juu, alafu tena mvua ikaendelea. Wakati mvua ilipopoa kidogo, tukasikia nduru. Tulifika hapa, hiyo mama amevinyiliwa na wajukuu.
Wakati wa jioni mwendo wa saa 2 nilikuja nyumba ile nyingine ile ambayo imebomoka, kuingia huko na kula saba na kutoka. Kuingia room hii, mama moja akapitia hapa chini, kakonga ukuta katokea mpaka ndani.
Hii sehemu ya Hanging Valley kutoka Anin, Kibendo, sehemu ya Kapchelal hata kule Kiptoit kuna hatari.
An aerial survey shows extensive damage across more than 10 villages, affecting an estimated 800 families, many of whom have been displaced. This even comes as Basic Education PS Julius Bitok has announced that the government has put in place contingency plans to support students affected by the disaster, particularly those sitting for the KCSE exams. Bitok said 14 learners were among the dead.
All the requirements that are required to ensure that every candidate is given a chance to sit for their examinations. I single out Elgeyo Marakwet, which we had an incident last weekend. We have also made arrangement. Unfortunately, we lost 14 students in the incident. It's really unfortunate. And we have made logistical arrangements also include working very closely with our security agencies to ensure that all the students have been safely evacuated and all can be able to sit for their examinations without interruption.
Meanwhile, DPP Renson Ingonga urged courts to impose strict bond terms on suspects involved in exam malpractice as more than 900,000 candidates began this year's KCSE examinations on Monday.
We will not encourage any malpractice. We will not encourage at all. And I will assure you we will prosecute anyone found involved in malpractices, from the lowest to the highest, from the smallest school to the biggest school. We must be vigilant, we must do the right thing, and I'll urge our courts once we get there, even the bond terms, we are going to press for serious bond terms for anyone found in examination irregularities.
Tanzanian citizens could not express their democratic will in elections last week, African observers said on Monday in a first report citing intimidation, censorship and lack of an opposition. Hundreds of people are reported to have died in protests after the East African nation's presidential and parliamentary polls, with key candidates either jailed or barred from participating. President Samia Suluhu Hassan was inaugurated on Monday, claiming 98% of the vote, even as the opposition labeled it a sham. In a statement, Richard Msowoya, head of the Southern African Development Community Electoral Observation Mission, said it was their tentative conclusion that in most areas, voters could not express their democratic will. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human, everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea today. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we may find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea today. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so if you're still thinking about what they're going to do with your gambling funds, well, let's get into a different part of the conversation this morning, because I know it's a hot number. And so folks who are trying to bet on who's playing this weekend, it might be possible that somebody might be taking a bit of your winnings. That's some of the stuff that we talk about as we get into conversations on the Situation Room. And so what's your plan? Do you have a plan?
Oh, yes, I do. And you know, on the Situation Room here, we always talk about the future, whether it's politics, it's future of the country, the future of this generation. We talk about the future a lot, and plans, goals, and tough choices that shape them then. But here's a question. What's your plan this morning? Life's moving very fast. So you've got bills that you have to pay, you've got dreams that you want to achieve, you've got responsibilities that you have to shoulder, and somewhere in between, the future then creeps up on you. ICEA Lion helps you protect, grow, and plan for what matters most for you. So don't wait for that wake-up call. Insurance, investments, and peace of mind, all made so simple and accessible, because if you're not planning for the future, it's high time you did. ICEA Lion, what's your plan?
All right, and once you figure out your plan, then there's a shop that's the 111th all right
branch, you know, and you're talking about the Naivas One Mall, Magadi Mall, you know, and it just got better because Naivas is here along Magadi Road. Now, the brand new Naivas One Mall Magadi Road branch is here now, being the 111th. You can imagine 1, 2, 3 until 111th branch. What does that really mean? Now, these appreciates everyone and all of us for 35 years of support and existence. 35 years.
These people who are celebrating 35 years, they are nice.
They're nice. Okay. And I'm speaking out of experience because I was part of it the other day. And it's celebrating loyalty, love, and growth. Now, traffic may be moving slow, but Magadi Road is moving fast with excitement. And you know what that means? Fresh deals. We're talking about great vibes and aisles full of your favorites. Now, if you love convenience, quality, and that Naivas freshness, this is the spot for you. Now, so when you hit Magadi Road, make that quick stop, shop Kikwetu style, and experience the Naivas One Mall magic. Now, Magadi Road is is here to make sure that you get a chance to do what? To win daily on items below 1,000 bob. So no, you don't need to spend much. 1,000 bob, there's something that you'll win in this store. Naivas saves you money.
Amazing. All right, things they happened yesterday. There was a quick swearing in of a president to the southeast of Kenya, and we are entering into that conversation at this time. Two distinguished gentlemen are in the hot seat this morning. Kwamchetsi Makoha is here. He is a member of the Kenya Human Rights Commission Board. He's here again after years. Kwamchetsi, good morning.
Good morning, Du.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's great to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for coming. Let's chambua this kidogo, shall we? And also, a very good friend of ours, Dr. Nicodemus Minde, is a researcher with the Institute for Security Studies. He's here with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good that you can come to the Situation Room this morning. Of course, both of you well versed in these areas that we speak of, and then also looking into regional politics, but then also being able to say what's in it for the people of East Africa. So we'll have that conversation. But Dennis wants to welcome you with today's proverb.
Today we're in Mauritania, and we are in a country that is rich with iron ore, gold, copper, and fish. And it is also a country that banned, the last country in the world actually to ban slavery. But then again, some tendencies of slavery still exist in this country. But this great country gives us the proverb: a tree that grows crooked will never be straightened. A tree that grows crooked will never be straightened. Kwamchetsi, you're laughing. How would you interpret that?
That is, it's a damning statement. It's like you've given up on something. This has gone wrong. It's gone bad. You'll never mend it. It's a very dire proverb.
How would you interpret it?
Well, of course, I think most of these proverbs tend to transcend borders. And for instance, in Tanzania, we always say, of course, even here in Kenya, samaki mkunje angali mbichi. I think this is just, it just mirrors what that Mauritanian proverb is talking about, that a bent tree can never be straightened. So, samaki mkunje angali mbichi. Of course, you can say maybe even for a kid growing up, you need to really discipline him before things go sour. Yeah.
Before things go sour, indeed. All right. So, last week, Wednesday, Tanzanians went to the polls on the 29th of October. Before that, there were quite a number of calls for protests. But the protest was, number one, against the sham election. So they said, don't go out and vote. But there was a protest to what many, from what we understand, Tanzanians called, unjust rule, unjust administration of the Samia Suluhu administration, that electoral reforms had not taken place. And there was a whole litany of issues that people brought to the fore. They said, because of that, on this day when you go to the polls, we are protesting against some things. In the subsequent days, from reports which are unconfirmed in totality at the moment, we're looking at about 1,000 people dead and scores injured as a result of these protests. And then a day after that had been collated, we were told that 97.8% of the vote had gone to Samia Suluhu, and that she, by the commission, had then been pronounced as the winner of the election and then president. She was then sworn in a very enclosed ceremony yesterday at a military base in Dodoma, which was then secluded from members of the public, with certain dignitaries in tow, with a number of presidents, two of which gave their speeches yesterday. She was then, of course, she was given the instruments of power, and she then made a speech, and in half an hour after that, tops, the ceremony was over, and everybody wiped their hands and went back to business as usual. No? Kwamchetsi? This is what happened in Tanzania. It sounds like a lot, but just 5 days, 6 days. It's not a week since the election. The people went to the polls, but it seems to have been dusted, and the lives of the 1,000 people who protested seem to have been forgotten already.
I will borrow the English from the Tanzania Election Watch report of 2020, which basically said that there was no election in 2020. There was also no election in Tanzania in 2025. So it would be wrong for us to even begin to discuss the election. There was no election. Yeah, there was an administrative event. It was made to look like an election, but there was no election. Who was voting? If there were all these disturbances, people were protesting, people had been barred from contesting, and of course you go and look for some sort of unknown people and you line them up on the ballot paper and say these are the people contesting. So it was a sort of election where Samia Suluhu was running against herself, and I think cartoonists and everybody has made a meal out of that. But it's similar to what John Pombe Magufuli did in 2020, which is that he made sure that first of all there was, and I think it starts with CCM. Where there is no nomination. I think the earliest indication that you get in Tanzania that there's going to be an election is the competition for the CCM ticket. And in 2020, there was no competition for the CCM ticket. And that was carried forward into the so-called election, which was a non-election. A similar event occurred in 2025, and Samia, who is Magufuli's inheritor, basically just she took out whatever finesse that Magufuli had attempted to use in rigging or swearing himself back into power. She just took it out and she just showed the naked brutal fist of the Tanzanian state in terms of saying we have power and we are going to use it. And I listened also to her speech yesterday and I felt very sad. I felt very sad because there was nothing about people's voice. There was nothing about sovereignty of the people. There was nothing about people. There was everything about stability and security. And that was a bit frightening as an East African. And I say this because in other places I've also said this, that Tanzania has provided the soul for the East African community. Tanzania is the crucible. That's where we go when we are looking for utu, ujamaa, when we want to be more humane, when we want to be a more humane society, we look to Tanzania. And it's not just East Africa. This influence, if you follow even the liberation movement, Tanzania and Mwalimu incubated the African National Congress, which ultimately ended up, of course, running South Africa. How they ran it, of course, is another matter. But all those liberation movements, Frelimo, right up to Angola, all that is this Utu, Ubuntu, all of it, the philosophy of it finds a home. The source is Tanzania. So when Tanzania gets destroyed, when there's decay, when there's democratic decay, as we have seen, I think, in the past 10 years, we are tempted to look at last week. But in my view, this decay has been running for the past 10 years, and we are just beginning to feel the stench.
Nicodemus, we look at a situation where the president was declared president-elect by having been voted in by over 30 million individuals, right? And these are Tanzanians who came out and voted for her. But when it comes to your swearing in, these 30 million people locked out of this ceremony that was given credence by the 30 million. What does that speak of?
I think it speaks of, first of all, issues to do with legitimacy. Of course, it's a legitimacy crisis. Elections are meant to renew legitimacy. Elections are an opportunity to renew accountability. And elections are, of course, a part of nation-making, because it should be participatory. It is about putting into account the leaders that you have elected. And as my colleague Kwamchesi has mentioned, this election was nothing but a sham of an election. We saw it from the word go. I termed it as a coronation exercise because the nature in which the nomination really proceeded. If you look at, I was in Tanzania during this election, it's as if there are posters of the president everywhere. So I really wonder what was so much of importance that she really had to campaign this much again in the wake of we don't have any formal opposition. The leader of opposition is in jail facing treason charges. Even the closest challenger was disqualified, and of course the 16 others, you saw them yesterday at the swearing in. Just that tells you something about the whole electoral process. But I want to reiterate something very critical, as Komchesi has mentioned. The protests were just a culmination of years of anger and grievances that have been, bottled in by Tanzanians. And of course, this protest and the election really debunked some of the myths about Tanzanian people. I think there was a repeated lie. I think that Tanzanians are timid. Tanzanians cannot protest. And I think it was something that was said again and again, and it almost became like a truth. But again, the truth is, human beings are wired to survive, and you cannot just say that people are timid. I'm glad that this also is happening within the context of an African youth awakening, and also an attempt to really reorganize the state, which is happening in many African countries. If you look at the past 3 elections, Tanzania, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, you can just see a general trend that there's a dissatisfaction of the electorate, and the electorate are demanding to be heard. And I'm afraid what is happening in Tanzania is a government that is not listening to the people.
What do you make of the statement made by the president during her speech that those who are demonstrating in the country are imports, are not Tanzanians?
I think that is another, for me, I think that is another insult to the people of Tanzania. While, in fact, do you want to make the fact that Tanzanians cannot protest and Tanzanians cannot rise and speak against a government? Again, it's just symbolic of the nature of government repression that that silences every voice of dissent. And I think it is also just an attempt to really, to pass the blame to other people, or to just discredit the agency that Tanzania is now rediscovering.
I think it just infantilizes the population, unfortunately. But if we just look at it with a cold eye, is that Tanzania is actually the most populous member of the East African community. So it is not possible for populations to overrun Tanzania. It's not possible. It's not physically, logistically possible, because Kenya has a smaller population, Uganda has a smaller population, Somalia has a smaller population, DRC, of course, is probably bigger, but it's buffered by Rwanda and DRC. So who are these foreigners who crossed over from all these borders to come and do protests in Tanzania? I mean, some of these things are laughable.
And remain there for days.
Yeah, but can't we read between the lines? She's spoken of Kenya before. And on social media, there were claims that there are Kenyans who actually were going to the border and wanted to get into Tanzania. And we know the activities on the social media platforms, especially from the Kenyan side, encouraging the protesters that, fight for your country, fight for your democracy, fight for your own space. And so, isn't she making that statement coming from somewhere? And you can clearly see where she's pointing at.
I would like to sympathize with the Samia. But you see, you also have to understand where East Africa is located and where our countries are located. If you look, there is a sort of very colonial division around Bisil, that place where we share a mountain, the Kilimanjaro. The communities are, they just keep on crossing. That thing is... That borderline is nonsense to them. The communities around Mwanza and around the lake, they fish right across, and they just interact. And so same with Serare and the border and Isebania. So the first thing is that you cannot wink in the dark and imagine that, there's no one and there's no one who's going to notice what you are doing because, this is internal to Tanzania. Tanzania is the business. Tanzania is the business of couriers who have relatives in Kenya and in Tanzania. Tanzania is the business of Maasais who have relatives in Kenya and in Tanzania. Tanzania is a business of Kenyans who are in Nyanza and in the lake region of so it's we have to be able to understand it, I think, and not use reductionist arguments in terms of this is insulated. Tanzania is is a mishmash of communities and peoples, and we have interests in there, and you cannot close it off as Samia is trying to do. Yeah, you can't close it off and say this is our business and we're going to do it. No, it is our business.
So even when we listen to what somebody says, usually they say the art of listening is then to be able to find treasure in the things that somebody does not say, and they're saying it just as loudly, right? So when she said the things that she said, perhaps the person who kind of said them for her was Hakainde Hichilema in what he said before she spoke. He spoke after Evariste of Burundi, and these are some of the things that he said. And then maybe we can hear what that message is, because it was very interesting to listen to him. He said, and he spoke... he called his own long journey to opposition politics. He recalled his journey in Zambia, and he said, our political party in Zambia was in opposition for 33 years. I led the movement for 15 years and lost the election. He stressed the principle of peace, and he said, I remained firm that I could not take our men and women on the streets as their blood would be on my head. I repeat, I remained firm that I could not take our men and women on the streets as their blood would be on my head. He then made an appeal to Tanzania to preserve peace, and he said, today we are privileged to lead our country. We inherited a peaceful country. This was after his fight for almost 40 years, and we have to leave a peaceful country to the generation to come into peace. That is my call to the brothers of Tanzania. He said a number of other things, but those were just so poignant in the way in which he put this message out there, remembering that Hichilema was in jail for many things, and many can be likened to what Tundu Lissu faces today. And this is a president who is saying, basically, guys, many say he is the one who gave the speech that Samia Suluhu should have given.
Well, without a doubt, and that message was quite, as you put it, poignant, but also hard-hitting, but also indirect. I don't know the reason why the Tanzanian government actually, invited him, and probably they did, not knowing that he's going to really speak what he said. Of course, Hichilema, Zambia has a long history with Tanzania. You can understand the reason for his invitation, but the words that he spoke were really, hard hitting, but also very, straight to the point, in the sense that by him speaking about his long journey in the opposition, by him also speaking about the issues of peace. I always say that most of our countries have peace. What they don't have is justice. And Tanzania has enjoyed this peace for a long period, what we call probably negative peace. What Tanzania really needs at the moment is justice. And what the protesters are actually demanding, or were demanding, is the prospects for justice, is the prospects for reforms in the electoral architecture of the country, is about a new constitution, is about a release of prisoners, is about the abducted people and critics. It's about enforced disappearances and many other electoral malpractices. So the message that was being passed by Hichilema, although being it subtly, was very important in terms of a reflection for Tanzania, and I hope it will be a good message for the president, for President Samia, to really use that as a point of reflection.
Komchetse, you earlier said when Magufuli took over power, it wasn't an election. The two previous elections, this one for Samia Suluhu also was not an election. You said it was an administrative what?
It's an administrative event.
Administrative event.
Like Mashujade.
So, if that's the background, then why are we having this conversation anyway? Why then are we speaking like we expected something different with this election? If in the past, this is what they've always done. The reason I say that is because then explain to me, well, we know the presidential vote. She won like 99% of the votes. Then you're looking at now the parliamentary seats. So CCM has won 270 MP seats out of 272.
Right.
So, so explain if this is the presidential vote that we're discussing here. But then let's go to let's look at the parliamentary setup, and this is what we seem to be having. It's a clear majority, 270 out of 272.
No. It's not a majority. It's a hegemony. It's a hegemony.
Yes.
CCM has, I think, in my view, it has mismanaged Tanzania because when the multi-party wind came in 1990, Tanzania pretended to allow multi-party, but what CCM actually did was to sponsor a few individuals to set up opposition parties. There was no opposition in Tanzania. This is the first time, when you see Chadema, it's probably the first time that Tanzania is beginning to experience an opposition. And an opposition is a party that can challenge the government for power. Previously, NCCR, Mageuzi, all those, when you actually begin to look at it, and I have the benefit, I've sort of had the privilege to look at a lot of the material around Tanzania. And these were former CCM cadres who were sent. They were sent to go and establish opposition parties for purposes of appearing to be multi-party. And so CCM never transitioned from the single party mentality of having monopoly and hegemony of power. And where we are right now, and I just connect that with what HH was saying, is that we are now at a moment where Kenya was in 2007, where something in Tanzania must give. The reason I'm saying that is not to frighten anybody, but Tanzania has been attempting to do a constitutional review for at least 20 years, formally. Yeah, it started when Kikwete was president.
2010, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that conversation has been renewed and abandoned over a very long period of time. And some of the things that then we are discussing are, why is it not possible to challenge a presidential election in court?
Right.
Once the Electoral Commission has made, and you know, when you look at the numbers that you are talking about, those numbers are ridiculous. How can you have the number of people voting, I think, exceeds the number of registered voters? Right? So some of those things, I mean, how do you count Kenya? Kenya was struggling to count for 14 million votes over a week. Tanzania, with internet shutdown, no communication, in a period of 3 days, had managed to count 31 million votes. Like, you know, Kiswahili must be a very fluent language, you know, to be able to count all these millions. But let me come back to this thing that, Dennis, you are raising, which is the Africa Peer Review Mechanism report. Yeah, of about, I think, Nicholas, it must be 2018.
Yeah.
Yes, 2018. This is where, you know, African heads of state come and agree, you know, you have a problem here, try and fix it before it becomes a crisis.
Right.
And the APRM is usually a very good predictor of a country's governance issues. We had one in Kenya, and they warned of certain things. We didn't pay attention to them. We ended up with post-election violence, 2008. In Tanzania, again, APRM went there, did an assessment, pointed out all those issues that are now coming to the surface now, almost like more than 10 years ago. And by the time now we are coming to have this conversation where Tundu Lissu is saying we are sitting out this election because it is not an election. We're sitting out this election because it is not an election. It means that there has to be a conversation about how you get citizen agency and citizen voice into the organs of government. And CCM is not able to do it because it's too greedy. I mean, how do you win 270 out of 272 seats in a multi-party democracy? Surely even 13, when they used to do it and they used to have like 12, 13, 14, 15 and so on. The previous parliament, the Magufuli parliament that Suluhu inherited, the CCM nominated for the opposition all the women representatives. I mean, how absurd is that? Yeah, like the ruling party comes and picks the members of the opposition who are actually going to sit in parliament to represent women. You're just cannibalizing the system. There's no belief in democracy in CCM anymore, and there has to be a conversation. And I think HH, speaking as he did, he was doing that thing that we do at funerals. You start indicating when somebody has died, like for example, if I die, people start holding up their hand and say, who's going to look after the widow? Yeah, so what HH was saying is that I'm actually open to start negotiations for how Tanzanians begin to talk to each other and have a conversation about their country moving forward.
But even when we talk about Tanzanians having discussion with each other, you see, any leadership in a democracy, it is the people donating their power to a few individuals to pretty much just govern and make sure the country runs, right? But here we're talking about an exercise that took place and people's voices have been scuttled. So at this point, one asks the question, who exactly will President Suluhu be leading? Because the people have said no.
And I think that's an important question you're asking, Dennis, because the logic, the CCM, and I keep on going back to this, the CCM logic is that the people are not important. The party is more important than the people. And that is the conversation that Tanzanians must have. Because at some point, when we are doing Azimio, when they were doing Azimio la Umoja, the party was more important than the individual, right? And that's a conversation that Tanzanians must revisit and say, are we still 1977? Yeah, when we did the Azimio la Umoja, are we still there or have we moved? Because the citizen of 1977 is not the citizen of 2025. And the things that they saw or they needed to do at that time, the state, security, all these things that Samia is talking about were probably important. The citizen, the Tanzanian, the East African, the African of 2025 has a completely different view of their place in this world and how they, and so that's why these conversations that we are having about sovereignty and sovereignty being donated is a slightly different iteration of the kind of democracy that Tanzania chose to pursue. And it chose to pursue one where you have sort of village committees and they talk into structures. They talk into party structures. So if the party structure is actually faithful to that logic, then you produce and CCM I remember when this guy ran I think it must have been against Kikwete very, very convincingly. And I think there was a 50% split in the election. Even Magufuli. CCM was still had the pulse of the country. Now, that is actually not there anymore. So something has happened and the top has isolated itself from the people. So whatever form it is, whatever shape and form self-expression is taking in Tanzania is such that ordinary people don't have voice in their government.
Okay, and so on that point, because that's what we're talking about, that there can be peace, but there cannot really be peace if there's no justice. And when we look at the protests that happened in Kenya, especially, let's look, earlier on, July, and we look after that, and when activists who went to Tanzania to actually be in solidarity with Tundu Lissu. Some of them were sent back. Some of them, unfortunately, then had been abducted and tortured. And the response that Samia Suluhu gave essentially is that we do not want this bad behavior that is characteristic of Kenya to stain Tanzania's image. That's what she said. and she was very clear on that. She alluded to more or less the same thing yesterday. And like we said, I mean, look, you're going to wrap a bicycle in wrapping paper. It's going to be very clear that it's a bicycle that you're giving as a gift. Yeah. So she basically is telling you that this thing that Kenya has been able to do, where you protest all over the place, we don't want it here. Mm-hmm. She's alluded to the fact, to her belief, that the people who were arrested in Tanzania over the protests, or the people who came to cause the mayhem, are not Tanzanians. You said that's an insult, Nicodemus. But beyond that, she still believes, like I know we say, when somebody says something, believe what they're saying. She believes that the people of Tanzania are taking on that element of docility that you say is not the case. Yeah. But she believes that the people of Tanzania will be meek in nature, and they will listen to what they're told, and they will do what they seem to love. That's what she believes. She wouldn't imagine for the slightest that the people of Tanzania are fed up because 10 years of an unfurling of a system is happening before our very eyes. But she is far removed from that reality, and she's going to lead for the next 4 years.
Yeah. That's the tragedy that we are experiencing right now in the country. And as Dennis was asking, what was this if we are saying it's not an election? In academic terms, we call that electoral authoritarianism, where you conduct elections in authoritarian contexts. Of course, it's like a misnomer, and most of African countries have done that excellently. And, elections need to give you certain meanings in terms of the choices people make, for example, and most of these have actually been robbed from these people. For example, elections, the number of people who did not turn up to vote is an indicator. So people use that to measure certain things. For example, in 2022, for example, Kenya says that about 8 million did not vote. All right. And then they say the protests of the 2024 protests, in fact, statistics were showing probably it is those 8 million that are now rising to protest. So again, if you look at the Tanzanian elections, all those variables that can be used to interpret an election have been taken away from them. So they cannot even be able to make meaning out of these elections. When you tell them that 97% of the you've won by 98%, and that the voter turnout was 87%, yet we all know that the election was disrupted at around 11 a.m. and that there were protesters. So you cannot, let alone just to make sense of an election in terms of interpreting the election. What did this election really, what did they mean for these people? And now, even for these protests, you want to diminish them or just suppress them. Again, it's not worth it.
But does she believe that the people, do you think that she really believes that the people of Tanzania did not come out in protest? Because if she believes that, then there's a problem. That they don't actually protesting against any of this.
No, I think she's much more intelligent than that, but she wants to have her cake and eat it.
Yeah.
Tanzania is a security state. Without sounding condescending, which is that you cannot go to Tanzania from my very early days when I went to gather poetry in Tanzania in 1998. You don't show up in Tanzania and people don't know what you are doing.
Oh yeah, they know in a very short while you're there.
It is not possible. My experience and the experiences of very many other people is that you don't sneak around in Tanzania. In Tanzania, everybody is in your business. So how is it possible that you are running a security state, as Tanzania is doing, and then you actually have this infiltration of, in Songwe, Mbeya, Mtwara, all these regions, like at least half of the regions, Tanzania was overrun by East Africans? That is nonsense. So you either are running a security state, or you are being overrun. So which is which?
But isn't this a familiar script? And I'm just sitting here thinking, wait a minute, there's something that we're missing here. Samia, you don't expect, obviously, with all the intelligence, that she doesn't know what's happening. By the time because they started off by switching off the internet for Dar es Salaam first, then later on it starts going now to the other parts of Tanzania. Now, what she said is, what happened does not reflect our character, tradition, and aspirations as Tanzania. It is not Utanzania. It wasn't a surprise that some of those young people who were arrested for participating in violence, including foreigners, what you're referring to. Now, our defense and security organs are continuing to investigate these incidents to return Tanzania to the peace we are accustomed to. That's what she said. And then she vowed to safeguard Tanzania's peace and sovereignty by all means and at all costs. And I'm just reflecting on these words. We've heard these words even here in Kenya, where time and time again we keep hearing politicians say, tunataka tuungane tuwe pamoja kama wa Kenya. Then you sit back, who is fighting who? In my neighborhood, I'm not fighting with my neighbor. My neighbor is not fighting me. What is this constant reference everywhere they go, talking about tunataka tuwe na umoja, tuwe kitu kimoja? In Tanzania, this is exactly what she's saying, that tuwe na amani. Isn't
patriotism?
Yes. Isn't this a familiar script that, fine, allow chaos and violence, people will die. Then use that for the next 5 years as your rallying point, that, look, I'm here to make sure that we are united. But you already know what you've done, and you know what you're doing. Isn't this what's happening?
I'm happy we are on Spice FM, because you are one of the stations that create narratives, and the narratives is how we explain ourselves. To ourselves and to others, and these stories that we are hearing is an attempt to run ahead, because I think there's going to be a reckoning in Tanzania. There's going to be a justice reckoning in Tanzania, and part of that reckoning is part of the things that the people who are on the ground, human rights monitors on the ground, have actually said, is that the people who are also perpetrating the violence were not necessarily jeshi la wananchi la kitaifa la wananchi. They were actually people from Burundi, they were people from Uganda, some of them might have even been from Kenya. So the state outsourced the violence to foreigners. And this is not the first time it has happened. It happened in 2020. So what we are hearing is that Samia Suluhu is running ahead of that script by saying they were foreigners. She's the one who brought in the foreigners. But she's running ahead of the script by saying they were foreigners who are actually causing problems. Yes, they were foreigners, but they were dressed in fatigues, and they were the ones actually who were quelling. Because a lot of when you look at and Nico is a security expert. When you look at the numbers. When you look at the numbers in terms of the Tanzania forces, if you had a confrontation between the standing army and the reserve and the police vis-a-vis the population in Tanzania, is a no contest, because the numbers just don't add up.
You talk about the foreigners who've been outsourced, and you talk about Burundi, Kenya, and Uganda, what you're now gathering. And one would sit and look at when citizens of Tanzania were being shot on the streets, you realize how leaders in the region are just quiet, just watching what is happening. Yet we belong in Njeri, Africa Mashariki, and one would have hoped that all these presidents would have had something to say with regard to what is happening.
Our president is the chair of the
summit. And you look at, even at the African Union, the chairperson himself was the first to congratulate Samia Suluhu for winning the election. And you look at that and one would say, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, same script, abductions, torture has become the order of the day. Are we surprised that these leaders were quiet to just see people being butchered on the streets of Tanzania?
In fact, I have a terminology for that. I call it authoritarian solidarity. Actually, if you look at what the silences of Kenya, for example, or Uganda, is authoritarian solidarity. In exchange, that Tanzania will also do the same when it comes to when it's Kenyan stand or Uganda stand. But I want to really contextualize Tanzanian society from what what Nyeri really built, and what Dennis was inferring to as this Tanzania patriotism. Tanzania is an imagined community. It was a national building project that really imagined the Tanzanian people, and that is why Kwamchesi will maybe wonders why there's this a perceived resentment of the external, which is sometimes used to consolidate the internal, and it has worked for the ruling party, where you build these sentiments, internal sentiments against an imagined external threat. And of course, many countries also use that to consolidate some form of community or patriotism or nationalism. But again, it is important to look at that again, as Kwamchesi was saying, these things are changing. So the Tanzania of Nyerere has evolved. It is evolving to a new society. And I think what CCM does not realize is that evolution is quickly taking shape, and it needs to really rework. And I don't look at CCM in isolation. I look at CCM in relation to many of these so-called African liberation movements or African liberation parties. Look at ANC. Look at what it now is being forced into a power-sharing government with the DA in South Africa. Look at what Frelimo has done. It went also to a post-election violence in Mozambique. SWAPO the same, ZANU PF the same. So you can see some form of a trend, and I think CCM probably has realized this, or they are blind to this, but I think it is very important to understand that historical context to really situate Tanzania's current position. Yeah.
So it could have been imagery or symbolism, but the 16 challengers, 16?
17?
There were 17, but there was 16 at the inauguration yesterday, Abi. And during the inauguration, I think it was very interesting that the Master of Ceremonies called each and every one of them, recognized their parties, and asked them to essentially stand and address the crowd, for however big the crowd was. What significance would that play? That this Chama Pinduzi is recognizing these other guys who were not going to give a chance in daylight.
Let me just give you some form of context.
What would that be?
16 candidates. So once you are cleared to run for the president, the Independent Electoral Commission gives you a vehicle, a car.
Yes.
2 vehicles. And most of these guys go up and say that they thank the president, yet they're the same people contesting with the president. So you can imagine, again, this is just, this was state-sponsored.
So wait, who gives out the vehicles?
The NEC, and then the candidates, Electoral Commission
gives the presidential candidates
vehicles to campaign. And the presidential candidates thank the president and the government. And you want to say they are going to mount any serious challenge? Not at all. All this, and I'm telling you this from insider information, all these fringe political parties are state projects.
That makes sense now.
They are state projects.
Okay.
Yeah, and most of them have either defected from this main opposition party, Chadema, because it has refused to
be part of this.
Yeah, of course.
Kwamchesi, is there something we also may be missing? I was reading something somewhere, and internally, the politics of Tanzania and Zanzibar. So when John Pombe Magufuli died, so it created then a problem. Now his deputy was Samia Suluhu, who was from Zanzibar. And then the story is that it was agreed, okay, fine, that power will be handed over to the PM because the Tanzanian president should not be from Zanzibar but from mainland.
Yes.
Because Mwalimu Julius Nyerere then assured the Tanganyikans that the union with Zanzibar would always reserve the presidency for one from mainland. Zanzibar was to have their own president, government, parliament, judiciary, even their own electoral commission, which they have. Zanzibar was also to send MPs to the Bunge la Muungano in Dodoma. Now, when Magufuli died, then you have Samia Suluhu, who is from Zanzibar.
Right.
Now, this election happens that she is the front runner from CCM. It's the first election she's actually then contesting and winning, okay? Winning in quotes. She's from Zanzibar. Now, Tundu Lissu was obviously going to win the election, according to what observers are saying. So the voters were saying that Zanzibar then had colonized Tanganyika, and they're asking themselves how Zanzibar can have two presidents and Tanganyika to have none. Is this going to be a problem beyond what else we're discussing?
Right.
She's from Zanzibar. Now in Tanganyika they're saying, okay, fine, we have two presidents from Zanzibar.
Does
it matter?
It does. It's a big thing, and part of the deal that Nyerere brokered to bring the union of Tanganyika and Zanzibar was that it killed over. Tanganyika basically, Nyerere decided to be the bigger person. Zanzibar, even in terms of landmass and population, is actually really small. But in terms of how it is treated as a state. It's semi-autonomous, it has its own government, and there's a lot of grace that is extended towards Zanzibar. But Zanzibar has voice. It has voice and also culture. But there are a lot of people now, when you sort of get into that conversation about democracy and numbers, then mainland tends to feel that sometimes they don't have as much voice. And that is why that is sorted out at the party level. And that is, if you take this back, it's a little older than Magufuli, yes. Because you remember Ali Hassan Mwinyi deputized Nyerere, right? And so it is to him that Nyerere passed the mantle. So he ended up being president of Tanzania.
Yeah.
So that story is not quite.
For me, let me just explain the union issue, because I think it is most times misunderstood. So there's an unwritten rule in Tanzania that there is some form of rotation of the president from a Christian to a Muslim. But again, in the political structure of Tanzania, a presidential candidate who is from the mainland will pick a vice presidential candidate from Zanzibar. And this is part of balances of the union, trying to bring about this union question into form of stability. You talk about the question of Tanganyika being colonized by Zanzibar, but this has often that conversation has always been that Zanzibar has been a colony of Tanganyika. But what we also see now with the rise of Samia, there is now a new conversation about the possible return of Tanganyika, which people believe was lost. In fact, at one point, the former president in Zanzibar, called the first president, Karume, used to say, Tanzania imevaa koti la muungano. So you can understand that complexity, and that is why I always I'm hearing from the Kenyan social media spaces about some form of broad-based government or a handshake. I think that is impossible in Tanzania because of the political structure of Tanzania, which does not allow that or does not conceive that possibility. So we need to really understand the union complexities.
It's much more complex.
Yeah. Is it true, though, that there's the rotation that's understood between Zanzibar and Tanganyika, that the mainland was going to supply a president and the deputy would come from Zanzibar.
Correct.
With the death of John Pombe Magufuli, that meant that you didn't have a mainland president, but you had a vice president that was Zanzibari. Constitutionally, the vice president would take over. She happens to be Zanzibari. It is said, and looking for your confirmation, that the person who negotiated this move to allow the constitution take place was one former president, Jakaya Kikwete, who came in and said, you know what, constitutionally, even though she's Zanzibari, allow her to come in as president, which would topple the apple cart in terms of what had always been happening. If that's the case, would it in any way contribute to the simmerings of any kind of pressure that we see then now coming to the surface?
In fact, the thing that is often has been missed is all this that is happening right now could be internal party politic dynamics, that even the protests themselves have an element of disquiet within the system. That in fact the way and the manner in which Samia was nominated for this seat to run for the president really contravened party traditions, in the sense that it was important that she's subjected to a formal nomination. And as Kwamchesi was saying, and I agree, that Tanzania's democracy has always benefited from CCM democracy. Of course, we have to be awake to the reality that Tanzania has this historic hegemonic party that is the CCM, and in one way or the other, this is what shapes Tanzanian political trajectories. That if CCM really nominates a person, the likelihood of that person becoming president are very high. So it is from that CCM really needs to understand that its internal party democracy has an effect,
very big effect,
on Tanzania's democracy. And the deterioration of Tanzania's democracy currently, as Kwamchesi, you have put it very well, is as a result of declining internal party democracy within CCM, in the manner in which, for example, how Magufuli was nominated in 2015. He was not the most popular candidate. The party contravened most of its rules and bypassed the popular candidates. And of course, what they're saying is Tanzania is now paying the price for that.
Yet, in all this conversation, there is a name that keeps popping up. So, like you've said, John Pombe Magufuli was not the preferred candidate. Yeah. In fact, they say his sudden rise to stardom, quote unquote, surprised many, even within the party, even the party ranks, accidental. Then in comes Samia Suluhu again, by the support of this name, Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete. And my question is, Samia wouldn't, and that's just an assumption. You have to have somebody who's really backing you up or supporting you up or telling you, go for this, don't stop. In this case, who's really behind the power? Is it Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete who's pulling the strings behind the scenes from the party level?
Yes, I think that's a good question, Dennis, because we have to look at the people who've always sort of been, they're called Vigogo, the pillars, the pillars of the party. So the late Hassan Mwinyi was one of them, the late Mkapa when he was alive. So all those former presidents, they just brought so much gravitas. And when the meeting, and I remember the Nyerere, when he was alive, brought corruption smack into the nomination room at CCM and said, there's a very, very popular candidate. This, I forget his name.
Lowassa?
Yes, Lowassa. Lowassa was looking like he was actually like gonna win, and he ended up, of course, defecting and running and not winning. But Nyerere, I think, was at that time, he was like, we want to know, where have you got your wealth from? And that became the issue. So the thing about the elders in CCM, those are very important people that I think need to be watched. But those are the people I think we might be making a mistake by focusing on Samia Suluhu Hassan. Yeah, we could be making a very, very serious analytical error in focusing on the individual. Because I think my own hypothesis is that the elders of the party told Samia Suluhu Hassan, you are not electable. You are not electable. So two options. A, you are going to step down. I think that conversation happened sometime, I think 2-3 years ago. You are going to step down.
Or toe the line.
And allow us to pick somebody else. Or if you insist on running to be president, you must allow us to deliver the victory in the manner that we want. And the reason I say that, twofold. When Tundu Lissu had been shot 16 times and was recuperating here in Nairobi, it is Samia Suluhu Hassan who visited him.
Indeed, yes. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Yes. She has held a meeting with him outside.
In Brussels.
In Brussels. She has pardoned. She pardoned Freeman Mbowe, and even has organized for the return of some of his confiscated property. So she was going to be this conciliatory president up until some point. She repaired a lot of the damage that Magufuli had done. And somewhere midpoint, she abandoned all that and she became a completely different creature. And we must then go back and ask, so what is then impelling her to become this vicious person? As we speak, my phone is basically still burning because I have colleagues, Kenya Human Rights Commission works, is a Kenyan NGO, yes, but it works nationally, regionally, and continentally, and even internationally. I have colleagues out there who are saying there are people who are being secretly, hurriedly buried, right? In Tanzania, as we speak, people are still being hunted down and captured, and a lot of them young people. This thing that we are talking about, foreigners, a lot of people are still being followed, captured, detained. And what is that? That cannot be Samia. That is a system. CCM is that system.
They call it mtandao.
Yes, it's a network. And it's bigger than government. CCM is bigger than the government.
You make it sound like the mafia, Kwamchet.
Yeah. It's worse than the mafia.
So
it's very well organized. Yes.
Nick, you mentioned that deterioration of democracy in CCM directly translates to deterioration of democracy in Tanzania. But as we look at that Tanzania that many have thought has always been docile in the region is now rising up and speaking. Is this perhaps a turning point for Tanzania where the citizens are saying it is no longer about CCM. It is about what we want. We want a democracy as enshrined in the constitution, or what the word means. We want justice in the country, and we want meaningful change. Is that what Tanzanians are now speaking to CCM and the leadership in Tanzania?
Without a doubt. Historians will tell you that countries have moments, historical moments, where they either make a leap forward or they go back to square one. And I think Tanzania is at this particular moment where for the first time that a people would come out and protest. And this is probably where Kenya was in 1992, for example, or the 1986 moment in Uganda, whichever you want to call it, that Tanzania is in a moment in which it has to really deliberate its future. And how do they go about it? How should they go about it? I think it is very important that the conversation around a new constitution begin as soon as possible, because every pronouncement that the president has mentioned in terms of the 4 R's, that is the philosophy of reconciliation, resilience, rebuilding, and reforms, they do not have any institutional anchorage. So it is just a word against the rest. So I think it is important to have national conversation. And national conversation sometimes is where you speak the bitter truths, all right, which will involve all stakeholders, and ask critical questions. Where are these people who have been abducted 2 years missing, or enforced disappearances? Where are the legs of Mdude Nyagali? Where are the legs of Soka? What this treason charge against Lisu? What about Heche, who was taken by just before the election? And this is a serious conversation that the government really has to have, because it is an important period. If at all, if not, I think Tanzania has reached that point we call them the adolescent period, in which now that innocence has now been broken.
This conversation continues because the sentiments are rife, not just in the region, but then going towards SADC, to in the southern part of the continent, and then globally. That you have all sorts of conversations going, and that if you don't look at the back end of this, like both of you have so well synchronized for us this morning, that it's very easy to talk about one woman and her contribution to this, and maybe it's not just her. Now, even as we do that, the questions are that why is everybody so concerned and commenting about what's happening in Tanzania, especially from a Kenyan perspective? It may seem obvious, but there are those who need to hear it to understand that why do you want to have a conversation with other countries with whom you share positions with in a bloc, where your citizens cross over borders, like you so well explained, that you are part of REX together, that you form part of these African countries whereby you want to do something together? Why is it important that we look into the intrigues of this conversation?
Let me just begin where you sort of started, which is that Samia's run has given women in leadership a bad rap. Unfortunately. But you see, we also miss the other important part. I know wonderful, excellent Tanzanian women leaders. Fatuma Karume, the former Tanzania Law Society president. Yes. Maria Sarungi, say hi. And Mwanase Ahmed, and many, many others. There are many rising women who are offering leadership that is alternative, that's different, that's outside of the mold of what we are seeing. Why is Tanzania important? Tanzania is culturally over-influential. Tanzania has basically forced all of us to accept that Kiswahili is, a formal language at the African Union. Yeah. They have stuck there. Now South Africa has even adopted it. It's now being taught in school. But for those who are Catholic, our worship is, I would say, 60-70% Tanzanian songs. Bongo is a big influence. And when you see what Tanzanians are also beginning also to do with the networked communication environment, online and culture and society and so on, and just how we conduct ourselves, Tanzanians appeal to our better angels. They actually tell us how to behave, how to be African. And so, when you are looking at your source of inspiration, going to seed, it's a very, very worrying thing. Tanzania incubated the idea of African unity. That was Nyerere and Nkrumah. So this thing that we are doing in Addis, this thing that we are doing as a REC, it could very easily just come apart. This free trade that we are talking about, these open skies, all the things, all the possibilities, because the things that were not possible for people in my generation, our children will demand them as rights. They are not privileges. Children, or rather not even children, even adults right now who are getting out of high school, they don't want to be confined to, a job in Kenya. They want to be able to work in Senegal, to cross over the continent, and the world is their stage. And so we can't be doing this navel gazing. And what usually happens, if you look at the way that our elections, we signal each other. What happened in what happens in Kenya influences what happens in Uganda and Tanzania. And when you look at the elections the way they are arranged, Tanzania goes first, then Uganda is next year, then Kenya is the year after. So the pathologies that we are observing in Tanzania is actually almost like a pretest. If you allow it to stand, you are actually saying it's going to be confirmed in Uganda and then it will be perfected in Kenya. And we can't stand for that sort of situation.
To stand for it. What does Tanzania look like going into the future, Nicodemus, as you talk? And the future is tomorrow. The future is next month. What does it look like?
The future is currently a bit bleak because I think it is important to have national conversation. The events of the past week have really wounded many people. We have relatives, brothers and sisters, parents who have really been hurt by what has happened. And these injuries need to be healed. They need to be discussed. They need to be resolved. And these are grievances that need to be discussed. Tanzania this is not the Tanzania of Mwalimu. And I think in search of that return of Tanzania of Mwalimu, really, as my colleague Kwamchesi says, Tanzania needs to soul search again. And by soul searching, you can be able to find answers in terms of creating a better society, which I think we are in a slippery slope that Samia really needs to come in and help resolve.
It's been most enlightening to then be able to see the intrigues behind the scenes of everything that's happening, to get a better understanding of what's going on, and then to be able to help us have better and deeper discourse. And both of you have helped us do that wonderfully this morning. Komchetsi Makhoha is a member of the Kenya Human Rights Commission Board, and Dr. Nicodemus Minde is a researcher with the Institute for Security Studies. Gentlemen, both, thank you very much. It's a hope for the better for tomorrow, for sure.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here.
You're wonderful people.
Asante sana. It's 8:17. Conversations continue after this. Good morning.
It
The latest news from around the world. .5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who are initially in ODM, we thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, "Staki kuongea today." Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 23 minutes after 8 o'clock, and Kenya's biggest conversation this Tuesday, the 4th of November. It all continues, and we're going into a conversation now that we'll share with you about your thoughts and, those who have real concerns about what's going on in Tanzania at the moment and what it then portends for the region. We'll take that and open that conversation up just a little bit. Ndu Dennis and I was going to say Ndu Dennis and Ndu, myself twice. Ndu Dennis and Dennis with you this morning, and we'll continue that. But Dennis is going to tell us about his plan.
Oh, yes. So what time is it? It's 8:23. So this is the time when people are checking to offices and people are having breakfast and whatnot. Others are in traffic. So at some point, so when you're having that breakfast with your colleagues, or maybe later on you'll do brunch, you'll always hear someone talking about their next investment. So this is just you listening to someone saying, oh, this is my plan. Another one is going to talk about, okay, so when I retire, this is what I plan to do. And you're just there with your samosas and your mandazi and your egg. Oh, where's my egg?
Me gave you a gift and
Ndu gave me an egg. Oh, I think it's somewhere out there. Whatever.
You and your orange something with maize.
Aseto, what's your plan?
Investment in retirement.
So, ICEA Lion makes it so easy for you to start. It's never too early. It's never late to start. ICEA Lion has a plan for everyone. So, what's your plan? Now, insurance and investment options that help you grow, protect, and you can plan with a lot of confidence. ICEA Lion, helping you secure your today and build your tomorrow. What's your plan?
Isn't that the question? What's your plan? Figure it out now. All right, we're going to hear from you. Obviously, that it would appear as though Tanzania sneezed, and when that happened, Kenya and the region got a cold. That it was interesting to hear Kwamchetsi say that Tanzania is the soul of East Africa. That thing when you're looking for the Utu, the Ubuntu, the soul, the spirit. That it was never a mystery that people looked the way of Tanzania, that Ujamaa in Tanzania, that Ujamaa and the spirit of brotherhood and camaraderie brought it out when it was coming in from Tanzania. That did, and that is the spirit still remembered. So when we hear or see things like this, then it came as a shocker for a lot of people, unexpected that you would see the manner of protest that we saw, but then even more the response that we saw. So where we thought, you know what I thought? I really believed at some point that with the protest, day one, I was like, oh my God, nobody said anything. Day two, and then we started to hear that people were being shot and killed, that people were being disappeared, and the people were being injured. I actually thought that we would see whether it was the likes of Samia Suluhu come out and say, okay, with that same Ubuntu spirit, I actually believed that she would come out and say, okay, guys, let us have a conversation about this thing. I really did believe that, and I hoped it for her. I think I was a little bit more shocked that didn't happen, that same spirit, that Utu did not come out in that way. There are people who are scared. There are people who are worried about people who are in Tanzania at the moment, whether they be Tanzanians or not, for their welfare, for their safety, for their security. We're having an open conversation. Ventilate. Talk to us about what fears may be, what your thoughts are. That some people say, why are we? I saw a comment this morning, and somebody said, which is why I posed one of the questions to Kwamchetsi, that why are we so bothered? See, Kenya had protests the other day, and we are still alive to tell the story. Really? And that, it's going to happen somewhere else. We'll get over it. And it's a bump in the road, but we'll get over the bump and we'll be fine. Can you ignore what's happening in your neighboring country, whereby there's a movement of persons freely via trade, family, or otherwise, and that something like this would happen, or looks like the future is going to be bleak in the next coming days, and that you don't have something to contribute towards it?
If you want to know how people are going to be affected by this, and in the next foreseeable future, just go to your local traders where you buy your groceries. You will hear your mama mboga telling you that they can actually they can't get onions from Tanzania because we know they grow them so well there. So there's a lot of trade where you may not necessarily feel it directly, but when you go to buy a lot of these things, that's when you'll be told, oh, magari hayaingii Tanzania, whatever is in Tanzania is not coming out of Tanzania. That's when you'll start feeling it. So you can't sit down and think, okay, why are we even having this conversation? Why should we care? The other thing is, there are a lot of people who have colleagues who work in Tanzania. There are many offices and companies that have branches in Tanzania. And so you have a lot of Kenyans working there. And then you have people who have actually even married there, or they actually have friends or touring there, whether it's Zanzibar or just Tanzania, generally speaking. The day when we heard Samia Suluhu say, okay, you know what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to cut down on the number of, we have too many traders who are coming from outside Tanzania, so we're going to empower our owner. You heard the cry, and you even had the minister of trade talking about it. And the idea here is Kenyan businesses are going to be affected. So with this now, definitely there are a lot of people doing business in Tanzania, and the businesses now have either been affected because it's not very clear what has been burnt, because we're not getting very good, clear reports of every part of Tanzania because of obviously what has happened, shutdown of the internet and whatnot. So we don't know the extent to damage because of the protests and the number of fatalities. This morning, you're just reading somewhere, I was just reading through this, and they were saying that there is, what is it called? It's an official statement that was actually saying that they've lost 17, is it 17? Let me just get that number clear. Viral Scout Management is broken to announce the devastating loss of 7 promising young football talents under our management. So they mentioning names: Rajab, 17 years; Anthony Rico, 18; Abdul Karim Ali, 16 years; Peter Elia, 19 years; Mshani Musa, 17; Omar Musa, 15; John Hosea, 22. These vibrant players were gunned down in a senseless act of violence at their homes in Dar es Salaam, Mbeya, and Mwanza. So
you're already, as a result of the protest?
Yes. So we're already now starting to get reports of this is just football management, whatever that is saying, look, we've lost 7 of our young, youthful, promising football talents. And so we're going to get more of this. So how many Kenyans have we lost? We don't have a clear number yet.
You know, you talk about how many Kenyans we've lost. I told you yesterday of my former classmate, Lizzie Yogo, who this is what she texted in the college WhatsApp group. I escaped death by a whisker in Tanzania. They shot at me while in the bathroom. It's a miracle I survived that. She goes ahead to show the bullet that was there. Her story has actually been captured by The Nation. And on Tuesday, October 28th, she arrived in Dar es Salaam in the morning. She is informed that the East African delegation had left Tanzania for Nairobi. Right? Now, she had gone there as an observer. And Wednesday, October, she wakes up early to prepare for the long day ahead. Her first polling station is Matsapa Primary School. By 7 a.m., ballots are officially opened, but there are no voters. She left after an hour of waiting. Now, she is at a friend's, now that is October 31st. She is at a friend's house in the bathroom having a shower. When there is a loud thud in the house, she would later learn that a bullet was fired into the house. And one thing she says here is the Kenyan embassy in Tanzania is world class. This is what she said. It took them 2 days to get to her, 2 days in Dar es Salaam to get to her. Where she was, where was the epicenter? The ambassador personally went for her and gave her a tight hug, prayed for her, and took her to the embassy. When KQ confirmed it would do the evacuation, brought her back to the country, to the loving arms of her husband.
Those are the stories, and these are some of the things that actually are happening. It's not fairy tales, but it's reality. And we're taking your calls this morning. Let's hear those who fear for their loved ones or for themselves in terms of what might be happening there at the moment. We understand there is a media blackout. Not that we understand, we know that there is a media blackout, unable to get some of those pictures, information in. So we're taking your calls this morning, 0732 142 650. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very good.
Tell us your name and where you're calling in from, sir.
My name is Paul Odera.
Hello, good morning. Okay, Paul, I need you to turn down the volume on your radio, please.
I'm not even close to radio.
Okay, well, I can hear something. All right, let us know what your thoughts are on this whole issue.
Okay, Paul, I need you to turn down the volume on your radio, please. I'm not even closer to radio.
Okay, are you listening on, is the stream on?
Yeah, my screen is on.
Okay, so I need you to turn that down, please.
Okay, I've turned it down. So my question is, the president of Tanzania, Suluhu, is telling us that she had won the Tanzania presidential elections. My worry and my question is all about that. We as Kenyans, we understood that so many Kenyans were murdered there in the elections. And we don't understand that the Kenyan government is acting against that premier act on the issue of Tanzanian elections. And my second question is that why are we not even told the number of votes Suluhu got in the general elections? And why were the dignitaries not even attending the swearing in of the superior president as she is complaining to be?
Okay, thanks for those questions, and we'll take a couple other calls. So there were dignitaries that were at the swearing-in ceremony. We saw that. There were several heads of state who had been invited, and a number of those actually did attend or send their representatives. That's one. In terms of Kenyans being murdered in those protests, because we do not have that information, neither do we have official numbers. It's difficult for us to comment on that until that information may be shared in the future. So on that, we cannot be told. Whether the number of votes that Samia Suluhu got in the election is going to be shared, we don't know. We've been told that it's 97% of the vote. Perhaps the NEC, the NEC, will share that information in the near future, but I guess that's what it looks like right about now. We're taking more calls from you. Tell us what you think about the situation. There are those who are afraid. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. All right, some more calls. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us your name and where you're calling in from, sir.
I'm David Ukal. I'm calling from Kisumu.
Yes, David, tell us your thoughts about all of this.
My question is very simple. How did Madam Suluhu Hassan knew the foreigners were the who provoked the protest in Tanzania?
It's a question that many folks are asking. Likely that we'll get that information as the days come. All right, thank you for your call. Let's take some more this morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Yes, morning to you.
Tell us your name and where you're calling in from, sir.
I'm calling from Nandi. I'm Christopher Biwot.
Yes, Christopher. What are your thoughts about the Tanzania situation?
Not much, but I'm a bit worried about our situation in Kenya immediately after Tanzania's scenario.
How so?
How are we going to prepare ourselves for our forthcoming general elections? If Tanzania were able to shut down the internet, how about us as Kenyans? We should be worried about ourselves, not even Tanzanians now.
It's a good question, Christopher. What might happen? And those are, of course, those are some of the things that cause fear and worry in the minds of people. It's a substantial one. But thanks for sharing those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take some more calls this morning. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Moses Pasha from Ngong.
Yes, Moses.
There is something you're not being told. What does Tanzania Constitution says about the election? Do they have shoot to kill? Do they have to kill everyone so that Suluhu get whatever, get the winning? Secondly, where are we coming in? Because they are saying most of the Kenyans are the ones who are fighting in Namanga. Hello?
Yes, we're here. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Please, can it be? We would like to know what's happened. What's the constitution that of the IEBC? Let's say they are IEBC. What the constitution says about the election in that country?
Okay, so what you want to know is there a shoot to kill order in the constitution of Tanzania if it allows this to happen?
Exactly.
All right, Moses. That's something we can definitely look into for sure. Let you know if that exists. And people want to know information. This is one of the things that shutting down of information sources does, that you then get very little information in terms of what's happening. So your thoughts and concerns are registered. Thank you, Moses.
Because you are now emotional for something that we are not sure of.
This is true. That's why information is so important.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a few more calls. Thank you for calling, Moses. Asante sana. Hello, good morning. Hello, please turn down the volume on your radio.
Hello,
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, too.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling in from, sir.
I'm Raymond Makori from Nakuru.
Yes, Raymond, what are your thoughts around the Tanzanian election and what has happened before and after?
I believe that it's time for the people of Tanzania to decide. The decision has not yet been made by the people of Tanzania. So it's time for them to decide the fate of their country. Pray for the people of Tanzania. Those are my thoughts, too.
Raymond, thank you. Those are solid thoughts. Asante sana. Let's hear from some others this morning. Hello, good morning.
Morning, Do.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine, thank you. My name is Mohammed Fawz, calling from Kitale.
Yes, Mohammed. Hope Kitale is well this morning. Tell us your thoughts about what's going on in Tanzania.
I have a question also.
Okay.
As a concern. We have CCM in Zanzibar and CCM in the mainland Tanzania. Why is it that there is chaos in Tanzania inland and there is calm in Zanzibar? And the ruling party is also CCM in Zanzibar as well as in Tanzania. That's my question.
These are questions, and we're taking those down and just trying to get some more information. That's a very interesting one. Why is there calm in Zanzibar? And what if that is actually what has been reported? But thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let's take some more calls this morning as they're coming in. Hello, good morning.
Morning, Do.
Yes, please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Joshua. I'm calling from Lugari.
Yes, Joshua. Please tell us your thoughts about the Tanzanian situation. Yes.
My question is, how do they manage to count 31 votes in a few days?
31 million.
31 million votes. 31 million votes.
Does it seem impossible to you? Okay, that's the question. All right. That's a question that's also doing the rounds in the minds of many people. Thank you for that. Yeah. All right. Holding that question on as well. We hear from some other people this morning, other calls that are coming in. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. All right. Hello, good morning. Hi, how are you? Please speak up just a little bit. We can't seem to quite get you. And then please tell us your name and where you're calling from. Are you talking to us on speaker? All right, we can't hear you very well. Let's take some other calls. Let's be trying to fix that. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How about you?
Fine, thank you. Please tell us your name when you're calling from, sir.
Yeah, my name is Peter. I'm calling from Nairobi.
Okay, tell us your thoughts.
And mine is, mine is a concern because, you see, back in Kenya last year in June, Gen Zs took to the streets. And quite a number of countries have been inspired by what Kenyan Gen Zs did. Now, Tanzania Gen Zs learned very well and they took to the streets. But the way the government responded or the way the security forces responded, that's where my worry is. Because we are just a few months to elections in Kenya. And let's face it, we have a president who wants to come back who is extremely unpopular with Kenyans. Kenyans don't want this regime to come back. The regime is determined to come back. And my worry is that it is not coming back through the ballot. It will come back through the bullet. And that's what should worry every single Kenyan. Luckily for us, we have a constitution, but the regime has already proven that they don't care about the constitution. So my worry is they're not coming back through the ballot, they'll come back through the bullet.
It's a heavy thought. Thank you very much for that. It's a heavy thought, a big wow, for sure. Okay, there's so many. Let's see how we can get through these this morning. And real quick, okay, we'll take in some more calls from you coming in this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing? Please tell us your name and where you're calling in from.
My name is Gabi Ikotia from Murari.
Yes, sir.
And I'm very happy that you SpiceFM, whatever you do well. The thing is, whenever an aeroplane have an accident, people come from near and far to find out the reasons why that aeroplane have suffered. Or if anybody happens to suffer death, we do postmortem. So we have to learn what is happening in Tanzania so that it will not happen to our country, Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Definitely. That's the thing about conversations, isn't it? You have a conversation to keep people talking so you can do something about it. More calls coming in this morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Njeri.
Yes, sir.
This is Henry from Maseno. Hi, Aseto, and the others. Dennis.
Mesalimiwa bana. Dennis.
Salimika sana.
Bas, all right. Tell us your thoughts, sir.
I'm calling from Maseno. This is Enrique. First, people should know that Sulu is the one who actually carried out the reforms being used in these presidential elections before even she became the VP. Two, young people, the Gen Z, as they call themselves, they should pick up the voters' cards and vote out these wrong leaders. Without voters' cards, they are going to die in their millions. Three, it seems to be there is some conspiracy to mess up East African countries, all the way from Sudan down to the coast. That's Kenya. Somebody is clearing some corridors. I don't know what they want to do. That's my end of the story.
Enrique, thank you for that. We've decided we'll call you Enrique now. Henry, we've thrown. But I mean, your thoughts are interesting and it all forms part of this discourse, doesn't it? Thank you for calling in this morning. More calls coming in. Talk to us. Not to forget, that line is 0732-142650 or 0732-142-651. All right. Let us know what your thoughts are. It's not too far from here, but things are happening and we'll hear from you this morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, SpiceFM.
Good morning, sir. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Isaac. I'm calling from Nairobi.
Yes, Isaac.
I want to share my thoughts about the topic of the day.
Yes.
And what I'd say is that today we are losing so much because we are not content to our democracy, and at the end of the day, we are letting so much when it comes to leaders. This is all happening because of poor decision making.
It's all poor decision making across board.
Yes, it's poor decision making across board. It all begins with the voters. You see, the first moment you begin to entertain someone who is not a proper candidate for whatever it is position you want to hold them accountable for, at the end of the day, that is where we mess up. So you come across leaders who are not ready to exit political positions when the time comes in, and this is where now we lose it at the end of the day. Like what is happening down in Tanzania today, it is uncalled for, and it should be rebuked by at all levels at any given point, because this is the best nation we've had in terms of security, in terms of peace, in terms of prosperity. Like. You see, what is happening there, it affects us either way, one way or another. Leave alone what is happening at the border. And prior to the fact that there is so much food that Kenya receives from Tanzania in terms of imports, And you can see that one right now is not happening because things must have been halted by this chaos and so on. So at the end of the day, as a continent, we are supposed to go back to the drawing board, look at the kind of things that we need as a priority, prioritize for the right things, and that is where I believe change will come from. Because if we don't have the right priorities in place, we shall lose our nations, we shall lose our integrity, we shall lose our freedom, and it won't be easy to regain it. That is all I had for the day.
Thank you very much for your thoughts, Isaac. And I think at this, thank you so much for taking more calls as they come in. It's 0732142650 or 0732142651. Let's hear from our socials what folks are saying. Mr. Aseto.
Yeah, so we're just following up on conversation that is taking place, especially on the comment section on YouTube. And Mkwana is telling us how her cousin sent her a video of gunshots ringing outside their house. They're living in constant fear of being shot by the police. And she says that she is worried for her relatives in Dar es Salaam. Now, you forget an important fact that tribes at the border, Kuria, together we are joined at the hip. That means Kenyans Kenyans at the border share that border. You find them in Tanzania and in Kenya, and it's the same thing now. And Kenyan government also needs to call out Samia. It will be very awkward if we have Kenyans caught up in the crossfires and we were congratulating Samia and participating in inauguration. That is MM and top 10. It's good that you're having the conversation. What's the way forward? How should we help them? If something like that happened to us in Kenya, what will we do to fight for our rights? That is the question. And a trap laid by the West that Africa should never speak in the same voice was when they researched and tumeingia ndani. Neither AAC nor AU will ever solve Africa's problems. Yet one would argue that they should actually find a solution to African problems. Now, Ongao Edwin, Baba managed in the constitution, first working with the government, then he crafted from within. Perhaps a change of constitution in Tanzania is what Ongao is talking about. And if we keep electing and leaving the wrong people in power at home, how do you miraculously expect them to make decisions in the best interest of the region or the continent when they gather together? That is Black Signium Inc. A good observation right there, and many more continue to trickle in.
Definitely. Our socials, our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Our audiences in KTN also then being able to contribute towards this conversation, and then hearing from you on 0732142650 or 0732142651. More calls coming in. Let's take them and hear from you this morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Tell us where you're calling in from this morning, sir.
Yes, I'm calling from Meru.
Yes. Let us know what your name is, sir.
Yes, my name is Shadak Baraza. I'm calling from Meru.
All right, so tell us what your thoughts on this Tanzanian situation are.
Yes, on Tanzanian situation, I will talk about Africa. Africa, we have a problem in Africa. Those in position, they don't want to leave position. They don't want to leave those offices. Therefore, we need to have a dialogue in such a way that leaders need to be in a position and they are ready to quit their position to live for others. In fact, the issue of Tanzania, it is not about Gen Z don't having votes. You know, people are talking about, Gen Z, they're just demonstrating, they don't have voting cards. They have voting cards, but the system, they are voting in the president, the systems. So we need to change the systems in Africa, because now that's why you see other countries, they have demonstrated and they have removed president from their position through demonstration, because voting has become just a way to carry the day, but it is not as important as it was planned for. Therefore, as a country, we need to learn that we need leaders who are ready to leave the office. And lastly, what I can say is that it was wrong for our country to send our deputy president, knowing very well that in the country of Tanzania, there was no election. There was an election. It was a formality. was illegality. And our country is representing there, showing that even 2027, we are going to have those kind of things. And young men...
Sir, let me ask you a question. So you're saying that
Yes.
by Kenya representing there, you're essentially saying that this is the kind of thing that will happen in Kenya in 2027?
Yeah, this means the country of Kenya has agreed that this one is right. Actually, they were supposed not to send anybody there because we have seen, even if somebody is not learned, can see with just a physical eye that this is not an election. And if we represent our country in that country, it means in 2027, we are going to have the same thing. We are rubber stamping, we are signing in the president who has been illegally put in place. Therefore, my plea is for Kenya. Kenya's let us arise because the time has come as Gen Z. Gen Zs, we have votes. It is not that we just go on the street. We have votes and we vote. But the system, which Raila Odinga fought for a long time, we need to change our system. We need to change our characters and leaders for this country to move on 2027. We pray for IEBC to be strict, to be disciplined, to be self, not to be pushed by any position or any gun, so that we can have credible election in our country. We don't want to die. We don't want to die. I've seen on the screen 7 footballers have died. For how long will we lose professionals in election because of one particular position? Let us have credible election by IBC. IBC conduct good election, credible. Even if you can go and stand in Somalia so that you can count from there and announce from there, it will be good. But not just to announce in Kenya because the guns are on your head. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your call this morning. Not to forget that number is 0732142650, 0732142651. Taking more calls this morning. Hello. Okay. Hello. Good morning. Hello. Hello. Good morning. Hello. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Morning too. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, I'm David Wekesa from South Kenya, in Nairobi.
Yes, sir. Your thoughts on this Tanzanian situation?
So, that situation is so good. There was no election in Tanzania at all. I don't know why Kenyans sent our vice president to Tanzania, and there was no election at all. So people were killed. So there was nothing for done in Tanzania. So the African leaders, they need to explain that democratic right for African. Let the people choose the right leader for themselves to be there. So what Tanzania did was not fair. So in Kenya, they did not have this such a behavior. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. We'll take a couple more before we get to the top of the hour. Good to hear folks ventilate in this manner. Hello, good morning. Tell us where you're calling from and your name, sir, or madam.
Habari asubuhi du.
Salama kabisa, sir.
Huyu ni Bernard Cree calling from Mungai in Kericho.
Yes, Bernard. What are your thoughts about Tanzania?
Wacha nieleze kwa Kiswahili hivi.
Amna shida.
Sijui ni nini Wakenya wanasoma kutokana na mambo na Tanzania. Kwa sababu vile tunaona mambo vile inaenda, ni vile tu mambo vile inatokota Kenya hii. So tungeomba Wakenya wanisikiza dadangu.
Nasikiza kabisa.
Sasa ningeomba kabisa Wakenya wasome chenye kinaendelea Tanzania na waweke Mungu mbele, waombe kabisa, kwa sababu hii Kenya, mahali Kenya inaelekea hiyo pale Tanzania iko. So good day my sister.
Thank you, brother. Asante sana for calling this morning. Let's take one more call before we get to the top of the hour. Just 0732-142-650, 0732-142-651. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Tito. I'm calling from Nangili, Eldoret.
Okay, Tito. What are your thoughts about the Tanzanian situation?
Yes, as Kenyans, we should pray for Tanzanians for peace to prevail and pray that they should fight to see to it that the constitution is changed to pave way for democracy to prevail. Secondly, I blame the AU leadership for congratulating what I do not believe was a free and fair election. Thirdly and lastly, the East African community should not keep quiet for what is happening in Tanzania, for it is creating a bad precedent in time to come. So the EACC leadership should condemn the evil that has happened in TZ. And lastly, impunity and dictatorship, opulence must stop in Africa in general. Yes.
Thank you for your thoughts on that, sir, and for everybody who brought their calls in this morning. And even as we continue to talk about these things, I think it's interesting for what we're hearing today. From Kitale to Nairobi, to Nakuru, to Nangili, in Eldoret, to everywhere. What are folks saying? That this is happening in Tanzania, but Kenya, be careful because this could happen as well. Is that a genuine fear?
It is. You have the sense that people are worried that we are also going into an election, and with what's happening locally, it's indicative that if you see what your neighbor is going through, prepare yourself. And that's why you're hearing people saying, okay, we need to pray. We need to prepare ourselves. IBC needs to conduct this election, maybe even from Somalia, even if we need to have peace. So people are already anticipating that something bad is going to happen. And it's not a good thing. But these are the realities on the ground. These are callers from different regions. People are upset. People are angry. The triggers that led then to the chaos that we're seeing in Tanzania is reflective of where we are as a country, and people saying, look, if we are not careful, this is the direction we're going to go, unfortunately.
Yep.
You know, we are interconnected, and it would be stupid for anyone to imagine that Kenyans will just see what is happening in Tanzania and not have a say. Personally, I would not. You know why? Because my grandma is originally from Tanzania. I have relatives across borders along Isibania. So when Tanzanians were demonstrating across the border to release Tundu Lissu's party member at that time, my relatives were there. So it means if there is fighting in Tanzania, my own people are affected in Tanzania, and we can't afford not to speak.
It's impossible for a finger to be affected and the hand doesn't feel it.
Yes.
Or other fingers feel it as well. And that's what we're looking at 9:01, to be able to hear these conversations from an intellectual, involved point of view with the two gentlemen that we had earlier, and then to hear from people across board with, more intellect applied to this, and just feelings and thoughts and emotions, guiding conversations as we should. The conversations continue. It's 9:01. Good morning.
It is now 9 a.m. with ICEA Lion. Insurance and investment made simple for people like you, courtesy of ICEA Lion.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. As the KCSE examination enters its second day, a school in Kajiado County has been thrown into controversy after its principal went missing following allegations of examination malpractice. The principal is said to have left the school after an incident in which educational material was allegedly projected in an examination room during the morning paper on Monday. According to preliminary reports, examination officials discovered what appeared to be responses to questions contestants were projected on a screen that was being used as a timer in one of the exam rooms. The Kenya National Examination Council has since suspended the principal as the center manager, with his deputy now overseeing the conduct of the exams. Another high school principal has been suspended in Narok County pending investigations after being suspected of exam malpractice. Narok County Director of Education Apollo Okoh confirmed the suspension.
He's not working in accordance with the NEC regulations, and therefore that institution, the deputy head teacher, will take over to run the exams throughout.
A manhunt is underway in Turkana County for a suspect who shot and killed a police officer at the Okari Deputy County Commissioner's office on Monday. Constable Crispin Ouma, who was shot in the head, was guarding an examination container at the DCC's office when the incident happened. Ouma's colleague told investigators that he heard a gunshot, and on checking, he realized Ouma was dead. His rifle was missing. The assailant is believed to have escaped with the officer's AK-47 rifle that was loaded with 30 bullets. In Nakuru County, residents of Salga in Rongai are in shock following the gruesome murder of an elderly couple at their home in Mudhiga village. The victims have been identified as Joseph Kihiti, aged 90, and his 63-year-old wife, Bethrosa Wanjiku. Area Chief Stephen Deritu said residents became concerned after the couple failed to show up at church, which was unusual. The administrator described the murder, which is suspected to have taken place on Friday evening, as premeditated. The couple lived alone on the farm. The son, John Jogu, said his parents had no known enemies. Police in Meru County say they've dismantled an illicit brewing den as part of a crackdown on illicit brews and drug abuse to safeguard public health. In a statement, the National Police Service said officers raided a homestead suspected of being a major production point for Chang'ai in Lare, Igembe North Sub-County. The MPS said a suspect fled moments before the officers gained entry, but they seized several items, including brewing apparatus and quantities of the illicit brew. The DCI has approved the release of 10 bodies of Shakahola massacre victims, followers of controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie, for burial in the Western and Nyanza regions. Those released include 1 from Likuyani, 2 from Malava, 2 from Butere, 2 from Emuhaya, and 1 from Kisii. This brings the total number of bodies released to 11, following the release of 1 body to Meru last week. Meanwhile, families continue to identify the bodies at the morgue after this DNA test confirmed their relationships.
Tunashukuru kwa sababu tumepokelewa na tunaendelea na mipango ili tuweze kukaende kuzika mili yetu kule Ukambani. Ikiwezekana wiki ijayo tutakuja tuchukue mili na tukazike huko.
Mimi mwenyewe natokea Mumias, but sister yangu ndiye alikuwa ameoleka Butere. Nilikuja hapa kutafuta sister yangu aliyepotea miaka 3 huko mbele. Story yenye sister yangu alikuwa anafanya inadhibitisha kwamba alikuwa amekuja huku Shakahola. Tulitoka Kakamega tukakuja tukafanya DNA, tukaambiwa turudi nyumbani. So tumekaa like 1 year and some months. Tumeambiwa turudi, watu wetu wamepatikana.
Peru has announced its breaking of diplomatic relations with Mexico after its government granted asylum to a former Peruvian prime minister facing charges for a 2022 coup attempt. Peruvian Foreign Minister Hugo de Zela expressed his surprise and deep regret after learning Betsy Chavez was being given refuge at a Mexican embassy in Peru. Chavez had been imprisoned in June 2023 over the alleged role in ousted Peruvian President Pedro Castillo's plan to dissolve Congress. She was released by a judge on bail in September and had denied the charges against her. That's the News Wire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases, it's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who are initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ending our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 10 minutes after 9 o'clock into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Tuesday, the 4th of November. We've looked out into the region, and of course, we're going to continue looking into this because it's still, as we say on the desk, a developing story. And then being able to see the intrigues that run through the region with what's going on in Tanzania at the moment and the aftermath of what many people are calling a bloodbath that took place in the last 5 days. With President Samia Suluhu now taking the reins of power once again, and the people who are involved in the protest being said that they are not from Tanzania, and they're looking into who these were. Having said that, how it affects Kenya, how it affects the rest of the region, and many things that have been said that will continue to be said over the next couple of days, we'll be continuing with those conversations as we go ahead. Let's bring it home, where there are some conversations that are happening in terms of what's going on for the 7th week now into a strike in universities across the country. But before we tell you who our guest is for the hour and what we're going to be talking about, Okari has had a plan all morning.
Oh, yes. Life comes in stages, they say. There's a time you're applying for a job, then you're missing it. Second application, third application, finally got a job. Then there's a time you got the job, then you're starting to think, okay, where do I take my money? So you're thinking of investment. And maybe even there is a couple somewhere thinking, okay, we need to plan for our first child. Now, the one day you're thinking about retirement and then the kind of legacy you want to leave behind. All these are part of plans we make in life. So wherever you are in life, ICEA Lion has a plan for you, from saving in a money market fund to securing your family's future with insurance. Because planning ahead isn't just for some, it's for everyone. ICEA Lion, helping you protect, grow, and plan for life's every stage.
Absolutely, and definitely is the way to go. All right. He's the Secretary General of the Kenya University Staff Union, otherwise known as KUSU. Dr. Charles Mukwaya is here with us this morning. Good morning, Dr.
Morning, Andrew.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
And we have questions. We need clarifications. So that's why you're here.
Right.
But before we put the pedal to the metal, as it were, Dennis would like to welcome you properly with today's proverb.
We are in Mauritania, a country that is rich in iron ore, gold, copper, fish, and oil. With all these resources, however, the country is ranked to be among the poorest in the continent. High poverty rates and income inequality is the order of the day in this country. Agriculture and herding is what our rural populations do here to sustain themselves. But from this country as well, we are being told something to do with the trees and how they grow. A tree that grows crooked will never be straightened. How would you interpret that? Very interesting. A tree that grows crooked will never be straightened. Well, I want to imagine then that literally speaking, if you don't correct the wrong right at the beginning, right at the source, chances are that you allow that particular wrong to grow and move on and on, it might actually balloon out to a situation where you're not able now to correct it at all. Yes, it will snowball into something bigger and bigger than perhaps what you can be able to do.
And you know, one thing that has actually snowballed over the recent days is the lecturers and the dawn strike. You know,
exactly.
It has been growing crooked throughout, but now it cannot be straightened. But there's hope that it can be.
Yes.
What's happening?
A baby that was born in
2017?
No, a baby that was born in August.
Yeah.
No, okay, September. Okay, October. Is 2 months old. September is now 2 months old.
2 months old in September, yes.
And we've been on strike, almost 2 months old, and we've been on strike for that period of time. You know, baby's already looking up, starting to smile, cool, car, those things. But this is still happening. So as we would, yesterday we reminded that in order for you to see today and the future, we must look back and then be able to cast that forward. So like Dennis said, what's happening? Still 7.9 billion or nothing?
Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, the strike in the university is still on. It's still on because our members, right across all the 42 universities, feel that the government owes them 7.9 billion. And what the government has done, which we commend the government for that so far, they are trying to get around a way of resolving this matter once and for all. Because the feeling of members who have kept on speaking to us through our relevant organs, the National Governing Council, the National Delegates Conferences, and so on and so forth, do indicate that they want the government to pay them 7.9 billion at once and immediately. The government started with proposing the 3 first payment plan. We declined. Then the government came down again and said, okay, fine. Let us try and then get this money paid within 2 phases. That again, our organs have said no. Why? Because they feel that they have been owed this money for far too long a time. From 1st July 2017 to date. And you still want to pay them in phases up to 2029. So this little money is going to be paid for more than a decade. where will the value of that money be, and where was the value of that money then? That is where we are right now.
8 years.
8 years so far.
So far are pushing for these monies to be paid. And it has been a conversation every other year. Every other year, it's a conversation about the dawn strike. Daktari, one would ask the question, why is this money not being paid? What are some of the reasons or excuses you've been given as to why this money is not hitting your account?
Maybe I'll begin by, saying this. It has taken this long because initially, when we agreed and signed this agreement on 28th of October 2019, we all agreed without anybody putting a gun on anybody's head. We agreed that this is it. And as the law expects us, after we have signed such an agreement, you submit it to the court of law to have it registered. So on 28th of October 2019, we signed. On 15th of January 2020, that agreement landed before a court of law. But guess what? When it got there, the very people we had sat and signed this agreement mutually were the first to raise their hand and object the registration of the same. The employers, the government agencies, they objected. The Salary Reform Commission, the university councils, they objected. And when they objected, the court of law, being a court of justice, had to listen to them. Why are you objecting? But at the same time, the court also said, as I listen to you, I must also attend to the workers who are waiting for this payment. So the court then went ahead to register this agreement on the interim basis and told employers, whatever that is not disputable, go ahead and implement. While I listen to your new, issues that you're raising. So, 3rd July 2020, the court gave a ruling on the interim. So, implement. So, it was at that point that then the government looked for money to pay on the interim. The 8.8 billion.
Okay.
Because the new contestation was that the value, the cost of the entire agreement is only 8.8, according to the employers and the government agencies. But as we were telling them, but on the table we agreed the cost is 16.5 billion. Why are you now saying it's only 8.8? They said, no. This is what SRC has advised us. So they had to look for money, although it is us again who came out and looked for that money from the government to help the employer fast track the process, and it was implemented the interim. Now, the suit now began to be heard by the court. And parties made submissions. Come 15th of January 2021, the court now ruled, gave a judgment, not even a ruling, a judgment, final judgment, and said, no, we have looked at all the submissions that you have made here. We have listened to your witnesses that you brought here. The cost of this agreement is 16.5 billion and not 8.8. At that point, none other than the government, the Ministry of Education to be specific, moved to the Court of Appeal, obtained a stay order, and filed a notice of appeal. Now, you see, with that, any time we kept on asking about our agreement,
yes,
we'll be told
it's in court.
It's in court.
Yeah.
So 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, it's in court. But luckily, because they knew they did not have substance.
So wait, so the appeal was never heard?
Yeah,
so the matter is in court?
Yes, the matter is in court, but they forgot. But this, we strongly believe, is because they did not have substance in that particular suit. Okay. So they did not go ahead to file the record of appeal, the real appeal. It just remained as a notice for all those years. But an appeal has a specific period of time within which you are supposed to prosecute it and conclude it. So from 2021 all the way to 2025, they kept on raising to us.
We're in court.
We're in court. This is a stay, and so on and so forth. But we knew, of course, after 6 months, that thing is supposed to be quashed. So we had to move to the Court of Appeal towards the end of last year. And we informed the court, look, there was a notice of appeal that was brought before you, but it has not been prosecuted. And we feel that now it is time for you to quash this, because the period within which it's supposed to have been prosecuted is long gone. And so the Court of Appeal listened to us and said, yeah. They looked at the file and said, no, it quashed that stay and threw out that notice of appeal. And so their case collapsed. So when their case collapsed, we had now to tell them, pay us what the court indeed said. In fact, the Court of Appeal said the ruling of the lower court stays. The one of
16.5 billion.
Yeah, 16.5 billion. Now, very interesting, this country. All these government agencies, the Ministry of Education, National Treasury, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, the University Councils, all these are government agencies, were in court being represented by none other than the AG. Okay. So, yes. So when this Court of Appeal has now quashed and thrown out this case, the AG writes to the clients and says, our case has collapsed. That is in March this year. It writes, AG's office now writes to the Minister of Education, telling them, our case collapsed. Please get this money, work together with the Treasury, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, get the money, pay these employees. We forget about this matter now. They again slept on their job.
When you say slept on the job, what does that mean? They literally fell asleep, or they
not literally slept on the job?
It could mean that, because it doesn't make sense that a court pronounces itself on a matter and says, pay this money. However you're going to get it, whatever you're going to do is not our issue. Pay the money. It only makes sense to me that you literally fell asleep if you actually didn't make the payment.
Yes. These guys, whether they just forgot about whatever the court had declared, or whether they decided to disregard the advice from the AG's office, but they just did not make any move to sit and, try and get extra budgetary allocation to get this matter addressed. So we hang on, we keep, requesting them until September 10th, 2025. From April 15th, when the AG wrote the letter, we had to wait until September 10th. We now gave them a 7-day strike notice and said, you guys, if you're not paying us, we think we have given you ample time.
And this was September 10th, 2025?
25.
All right.
Yeah.
So here we are on November 4th. So actually it is 7 weeks since then. You gave the strike notice. It's supposed to be a 7-day notice.
Yes.
After the 7 days, there was no movement. And of course, in this case, movement means payment.
Right.
And so here we are then in the 7th week of the same, without those payments made.
Yeah.
So I keep saying this is interesting, because we have to look at the ecosystem of this strike. It's not just university workers that are on strike. But what happens as a result of that is that there are 70,000, and that's just the University of Nairobi.
Yes.
70,000 students who are not in school.
Right.
Let's just take the universities in Nairobi. Kenyatta University, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. We're looking at the other public universities just in Nairobi. Then you want to start going to the counties.
Yes.
And you want to start, because this is not Nairobi strike. It is it's countrywide, right? So take that 70 and multiply it by, if it's going to be the average of 50,000, multiply it by 20 universities on the lower side. we're looking at 1 million plus students who are out of school in the first semester of the new year. They've not been in school since September. Now, somebody in government is telling us, what are you talking about? Students are in school. Well, I wonder, okay, they may be in school physically standing there, but there's no teaching that's going on. There's no process of education that is actually happening. Those lives are being affected. There are students who are supposed to be in their internship year. That's not going to happen because who's supervising it? So we don't just have non-academic and non-academic staff not being paid. What we have as a result of that is that we have millions of students who are out of school. Correct. Who have many traveled across the country, and where are they going to stay? Where are they going to live? The money that they've been given is on its way towards the end of the line, yes. And then they've lost out on that money as well. Yeah. It's a whole ecosystem of problems that have been created by this. Is it somebody playing hardball, or is there actually no money? Dr.
Thank you, Do. I wouldn't really want to... First of all, we really sympathize with our students and their parents. Because we have said time and again that majority of our students in our public universities come from very poor families. And so for them to come to the university, it means that their parents have had to sacrifice a lot to get them to school. And so the little money that they're given to come and make good use of it, going through the academic program. But when they come and then they find they're not learning, then that money, as you have rightly indicated, is wasted, But now, as we do that, you are asking whether there's deliberately somebody playing hardball or not. I wouldn't know, but we squarely put this matter at the doorstep of the government. You are the owner of these public institutions. You know pretty well that those institutions are funded by the exchequer. And even where you have maybe felt that it was not, suitable for you to do that because the court has told you, you have chosen to fight it or, challenge it. And the court has told you, no, it is like this. Get the money and do it. So with that aspect alone, you could perhaps then see that maybe the government is not being responsible on this particular matter. And number two, it would also mean that perhaps the government is giving education a kind of lukewarm attention. Because sectors in this country, education is key. The knowledge economy is key to any developing country. Look at even our revenue. A big chunk of the total revenue collected in this country comes from the diaspora. The diaspora people who bring money back home here most of them pass through these institutions, and they are trying to bring back the money. But now here we are, we receive the money as a government, but we don't want to make good use of that money by ensuring that education is given priority, it continues developing and churning out, manpower. So I would say that yes, the government maybe is playing hardball. As to whether it doesn't have money, that is neither here nor there, because everybody sees what is happening in this country. Yes, we are seeing money being dished out, even money that is not budgeted for. When you just wake up and say, 20 billion shillings, we give it to whoever, so and so. Remember, first of all, even if health is a sector like education, health is devolved. When the national government is coming out and giving out 20 billion like that, what is happening with the county governments that run those facilities? So we are seeing that the government cannot say it doesn't have money. The government has money. Look at the high taxes that Kenyans are now, paying. Again, it is not possible that the government doesn't have money.
Look,
yes,
I want to look at the sincerity from negotiators. Let me say negotiators in terms of the union and the government.
Right.
By the time this CBA was being arrived at, it came out of negotiation where both sides sat on a table and agreed 16-point 16.5 billion shillings. And by the time you are depositing these at the court is when there were objections to 16.5. But the origin of 16.5 billion is because both sides sat and agreed on the figure that is 16.5 billion. Why would the government turn around and reject that which it sat on the table and agreed was an amount that we could afford?
It's a paradox, even to ourselves. As I said, when we negotiate as negotiators, we don't use any coercion or any form of force to get us arrive at an agreement. But it happened that we can sit, agree, and then you turn around, the same people who have agreed with you, turn around and say, around the corner and say, no, we're objecting to it. We do not know, but we suspect that the turnaround was because of the wrong or misadvice given by the Salaries Arbitration Commission. The bone of contention that brought out this problem is this. You know, a collective bargaining agreement, when it is being implemented, there are two movements. First of all, you're an employee. You are within a given salary scale or a job group. That job group is not static. Every now and then, every year you move until you reach your maximum of that salary scale. So there is a movement from the notch where you are to the next one, until. Then there's another movement that you have agreed on this table that salary, for example, is going to be 4% salary increase. Meaning for 4 years, 1%, 1%, 1% every year. That movement is horizontal. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. But as you move that way, remember that you're also moving in your salary scale from notch 1, notch 2, like that. Now, when we agreed, we said this particular CBA, the total cost includes horizontal movement and vertical movement. In essence, the movement becomes diagonal. That is how a CBA is implemented. But the Constitutional Commission, mandated to advise government and government agencies on public service remuneration, said no. You cannot move twice. If you move twice, it's double payment. So they are the ones who therefore went ahead and now misadvised these agencies or fellow government agencies and said, no, the cost can only be 8.8. If you do 8.8, then you'll only move horizontal. But if you move, taking into account your automatic annual increment, which is a right to every public servant, it is in the records. Yes, to cushion you against inflations and such like. You're cushioned, you move every year. So when you do that total movement, the whole thing comes to 16.5. And we convinced them that is the one. But funny enough, when it arrived on the desk of the court, the commission misadvised them and insisted, no, it can only be 8.8.
All right. You wanted to go?
Go, just go.
Is this money budgeted? I'm asking because it seems as though there are concurrent conversations during the fiscal year, and that we have to, apply it to the fiscal year because this is a government bill, essentially. So it then follows the financial year. So education at this level, one would assume, falls under this 600 plus odd billion shillings. This money that we're talking about falls within the budget that was already done, right? So when the minister stands in Parliament and gives those numbers, this money that we are talking about is factored into the budget. So it's been budgeted for. It's not somewhere in the middle of the year, university dons and non-academic and academic staff come and say we want an increment. It's not that. So it's money that was budgeted for. So if it was budgeted for, why do we see this tug of war back and forth for money that you already budgeted for to pay people? It's why is there a renegotiation and having to go to court and all of this? It was in the budget. Why do we have to go back and forth?
Very interesting. I think the government would be best placed to answer that. But it is true, monies that come to the universities are budgeted for. But for some reason, strange reason, if you choose not to include part of this money in your budgetary estimates, simply because you think you're in court, thinking that perhaps the court then will give you a favorable a ruling that then will ensure that you only pay whatever little that you budgeted for, that is a problem. For us, this money is budgeted for. What we are being told right now is that this money was not budgeted for. But you remember, the ruling was done in 2021. How many financial years are those? So there is laxity and there is just lack of commitment on the side of those who are responsible to get these budgetary allocations made. So for us, we know that universities get their money budgeted for and it's drawn from the consolidated account. And that's why members are saying, no, you pay us this money. And so as we push right now, what the government is trying to tell us is that, this money was not budgeted for and therefore give us time to ensure that we budget for it. We're saying, no, that's why we have these supplementary budgets.
Right.
Yes, you have now it has been confirmed that you made a mistake. Carry that burden. Get this thing fixed in whatever budgetary estimate that you want. There is something called Article 223 of the Constitution that allows the government to expend and then regularize those expenditure in the subsequent budgetary estimates. It's one of the things that we are trying to pursue with the government. There's a lot of discussion and negotiations going on, trying to see which way can we be able to get these things done. So yes, it was budgeted for, it was not budgeted for, but that is not our issue. Yeah.
I mean, so 2017, when this conversation started, this was a different administration, and just listening to you from the very beginning, conversations were held between you and the other agencies representing government, and there was an agreement. Then suddenly there is a court case and they're the first again to come and object. So clearly it shows there was no goodwill from the very beginning.
Right.
And the monies that you'd agreed in terms of now the faces. And it almost appears because since we started going to school, we've been seeing a lot of strikes. And a lot of times different administrations and the approach is almost similar. Is they will allow you, okay, go on your strike. They will tell you, okay, go back to work. There will be threats, okay, you might lose jobs, you might do this, you might do that. This cyclical concept from the government standpoint almost feels like, okay, maybe these people are not very, very strategic. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it difficult. We're going to stall this. And this appears like it's just stalling, like I'd said earlier. What will it take to achieve a lasting solution, not just to this, because in another 5 years again, in another administration, something else will come up. You'll sit down with government, you'll have some agreements, then there will be a case taken to court, then there will be an appeal if there's a ruling, and then there will be a judgment much later on, then there will be stalling, then come to the table, let's have a conversation. You said now the current one is, can we have these in phases up to 2029? Already. So it clearly tells you there is a pattern here from as far back as what, 10, 20 years. So there's always been this pattern. What will it take to have this lasting solution? That's my first question. Question number two. Now I'm looking at the situation with the students, with parents. Even as, we're also being sympathetic that, okay, look, you need to be paid. The court has made a judgment on this, and this is money that you need. But if the strike then continues, because we're in week 7, if the strike continues to week 8, let's even assume the strike continues to 6 months, in the worst case scenario, what's KUSU's plan Number one, to sustain it without, again, hurting the very institutions that you're representing. It's a catch-22 situation, but how will you balance this?
Okay, Dennis, thank you. Yes, I want to agree with you, first of all. There are signs of lack of goodwill from those who are responsible. But then you're asking, what will it take? I also agree with you that it has been for a number of years where we have had this perennial industrial action being undertaken by employees in our public universities, and therefore impeding on the academic programs of these boys and girls. And so it's like it's a continuous cycle, and so on and so forth. Partly, if not majorly, is because these institutions, our vice chancellors do not tell the government the truth.
Really?
Yes.
What do you say?
They don't tell the government the truth.
About what?
When money is required and the amount of money that is required by these institutions, you have been appointed by the government to run that institution on behalf of the government.
Right.
But you don't give the correct information to your appointee. These are guys who tremble even before peers, before CS. You're supposed to go there and tell him, look, you have given me the mandate to run this institution, but for this particular financial year or this particular period, I need this amount of money.
And there's none.
Please give me, and of course you're giving that with your documentary evidence to support your justifications. You see that? That's number one. They don't tell the government the truth that actually our members of staff require this amount of money. How do they do it? They do that by not including these CBA monies in their budgetary estimates. If you don't put, we have something called the wage guidelines, 2005. These were released by the late finance minister then, David Mwiraria. They are still in force. According to the wage guidelines, a public employee is supposed to do his or her budgetary estimates using those guidelines. When you are budgeting, go and actually get the guide from there. Ask for what you think is adequate for your employees. But then as you do that, supply enough justification that you need that money. So our universities do not include these CBA monies in their budgetary estimates properly.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. Number two, they do it late. When we are negotiating, we negotiate late. Like, for example, we are negotiating 2021, 2025 CBA. We negotiate it in 2024. And it's supposed to have begun its life in 2021, but we are negotiating it in 2024. So how many financial years have already passed? So it becomes a challenge even for Parliament to appropriate, because you are negotiating this CBA late. That's another angle, that our university managers are not helping the process. We as unions give them our proposals in good time. For example, we are supposed to be now in the CBA 25-29. This CBA's life began on 1st of July 2025 to cover until June 30th, 2029. Do you know we have not even started it?
I beg your pardon?
We have not started negotiating it. Okay. Yeah? So, obviously it tells you that down the line, a few weeks, again we'll be back on the street saying, we are supposed to negotiate the CBA. So, the issue here is that the people responsible are not being proactive in doing what they're supposed to do. But I would hesitate and say this. This current government has tried a little bit to try and remove that problem. We did sign our 2021-2025 CBA. We signed it late last year. It's actually in the middle of implementation. It's just a small bit that is remaining. And then we did agree that we start our negotiations for the 25-29 CBA in February this year, which we have not started. But the government was of the view, and is still of the view, that if we begin these CBA negotiations early enough before the cycle begins, we can actually then curtail this perennial industrial action. So it is this arrears of those many years that perhaps is still delaying the jump starting of the new negotiations. So the only way to get out of this cyclic industrial action in the universities is to ensure that we negotiate in good time and get the negotiated and agreed agreements in the budgets, then allow Parliament to appropriate.
You know, Doc, another thing that perhaps maybe needs to be pushed is to ensure that we have VCs who actually wear their boots and do the job, because we're speaking about individuals who are afraid of speaking straight to power on what they need.
Yes.
And one would say it is managing the situation just so you look good, but in the meantime, it will still come back to bite you. So since we know that, fine, there is negotiation that needs to start early, but we need to equally have managers who know what it is they're doing. So as a union, as a major stakeholder, parents, government, students, how do we fix the problem of managers who do not know what it is they're doing? Because we'll still end up here.
Yes, it's true. I totally agree with you. You know, Kenya is a very interesting country where we have politicized everything, including education. I can tell you, the men and women appointed to run these institutions know which side of their bread is buttered. And when they are speaking to the powers that are, they are very careful. Because they want to keep their jobs, number two. They want to retain and, you know, renew their terms in office. So they will choose to tell the government what they would like the government to hear. And when we sit with the government, we always tell the government, for us, we will tell you even what we will not want you to hear. So do not just listen to these men and women alone, but listen to us also as stakeholders. And this is something we have even told in the current crisis. We have told the Ministry of Education, the CS and the PS, you made a mistake by only listening to SRC, only listening to the Vice Chancellors. Because the Vice Chancellor, he will not tell you that I need this money now. There was only one Vice Chancellor who used to do that. May God rest his soul in peace. Professor George Magoha. And the crop of vice chancellors during his time, Professor Mugenda in KU, Professor Mebo in JKUAT, Professor Twitowek in Egerton, Professor Mibei in Moi, you know, those who are people who would run these institutions and say, hey, we're having a problem. And Magoha would lead them and say, what do we need? We need money. Come on, let's go. And they'll all go to Jogo House.
So it sounds to me that it's not a money problem, but it's a leadership issue.
It's leadership. Leadership is lacking in our institutions. When we have men and women who are afraid to speak the truth, what do you expect? What do you expect? We'll have these problems. And now when they are cornered, they say, no, it was SRC that was advising us. But what did you tell SRC? It begins from the employer. The information that you share with that commission is what will inform that commission's advisory.
But even without being told, don't you think they know what the issue is? They don't even need to be told. If you are actually the education CS, obviously you have your ears on the ground. You will know, even if you're not being told, we have a problem in our universities. You will seek to find answers. So what's going on? You have directors under you. You've got managers under you. And they will obviously know that there is a problem going on in these institutions of ours, though you're not being told the truth. They gather intelligence. They know these things. My question is, do you honestly think the Ministry of Education, and in this case by extension, government in general, cares about lecturers in this country?
I would tell you, from what is happening and what has happened in the past, the government seems not to be so concerned with education. The government is not concerned. The government seems to be concerned with other things. For example, road construction, housing, health. You know, those ones are more, they're given more attention for whatever reason. But when it comes to education, we do not know what happens. And that's why I started by saying the priorities as a country, we seem to have our priorities down. A country that does not have education, and particularly university education running, so that we attract the collaborators, we attract the innovators coming in, we attract, they are looking at us worldwide. We are now being looked at as a pariah state in terms of education. Who would want to come and partner with our researchers here in this current situation? Or how are our graduates then looked at?
Because look at the ripple effect,
Yes.
right? If we look at what was the university's table in Africa, that of course you had universities, top tier universities in the public arena. You had University of Witwatersrand in South Africa, University of Nairobi, University of Ibadan in Nigeria, Makerere University in Uganda. Because there is continuity of excellence, and there's so many pillars that contribute towards that. It's not just lecturers in class teaching. That the entire ecosystem has to be at par in order for you to even be on that thing in the first place. So when we look at the effects of something like this, where it looks like it's just a boardroom war, we don't realize the actual effect that it has inwardly, outwardly, to students, to families, to parents. I'm trying to figure out how lecturers who are supposed to be paid not are able to sustain their families. Do you understand? So when we can look at it at an insular level, but then also what happens, just like you're saying, on the face of it, where we are asking that 15%, for example, of the budget goes towards research, for example, in the medical field. Where is that research happening if not at universities? Are you telling me that research is going to be going and be paid for if you can't pay a salary for a lecturer or non-academic staff? This is the thing that we're talking about. Until we have the realization of the total effect that something that you can't sit down and actually do in a boardroom or wherever it is that you have your meeting, if you don't see the effect of that, then it seems to me we have a much deeper problem. Because we can find 50 million on a Sunday, we can find 100 million on a Saturday, we can find that money. But then to mitigate the negative effect of not doing something like this, we don't seem to be able to do that. What's it going to take for us to see? It's just like corruption. We dilly-dally with it because we don't actually see the effect of it on economies, on people, on families, on individuals, on children. And so we still, doing this flirtatious dance with it. But this is not funny.
It's not. It's not. I can tell you, this is right in the corner of the government. If the government puts down its foot and say, we want to pay attention to each and every sector of this economy. I've told you knowledge economy is key to any developing country, to any country. In fact, when they are looking at how a developed a country is, they look at, the percentage of its population that has, education and so on and so forth. They look at, among other things. Now, when we come to Kenya, the government is a little. You had the head of state the other day saying, look, the problem in our universities, I will not address it. Because that one is being addressed by the minister or the cabinet secretary.
No, but he called teachers, 10,000 of them to State House the other day. How is it not a matter to be addressed?
He said he's concerned with barabara, he's concerned with housing, he's concerned with health and so on and so forth. But then you ask yourself, don't these other sectors also have cabinet secretaries? They do, yeah. But it tells you that where the rubber meets the road is that the government is not playing its role in ensuring that education in this country is up there. Look at the schools. How late are they receiving their capitation?
If they are.
You're seeing that?
Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so there is a problem. And that problem, in our view, the government, it is squarely under the feet of the government. The government can put this matter to rest once and for all, and we move ahead.
Dr. Adon, we talk about education in universities. Now it was told. We had a student leader here last week, and he was just painting a picture of how, when dons go back to class, what it would mean to catch up, to play catch up. Those who are supposed to go for internship might not go because of we're trying to catch up, time has gone and all this.
Yes.
And you look at the quality that comes at the end of graduation, and there is a problem with that. And if you just pause, for anyone who just paused to look at the education sector and how critical it is to the growth of an economy, the growth of a country, respect a country gets, and one would say perhaps we need to pay more attention and just do right by the students pretty much and the parents. But do we really care?
Yes, I can tell you, one thing I can assure you is that the moment we get back to work and in class to teach our students, we will do our best. Any time that has been lost, I can assure you that will be recovered. Even if it means having evening or weekend classes and eating perhaps into even the holidays, you can be able to do that. But it is true that it may disrupt a bit of, for example, those who are to go for teaching practice, for those who are to go for attachment, internship, and so on and so forth, but not quite much. Because you remember we have quite a fairly long vacation from April all the way to September. Yeah, so time can easily be gotten. Just in case we are not able to cover what has been lost within the remaining time and part of early in the new year. Okay. Yes, it can still be gotten.
What is this doing to the quality of education in the country? Because as we speak today, if you just look at private universities, they are lined up going for graduations left, right, center. Public universities at a standstill. What are we doing to the quality of education?
Indeed, it does impact on the quality of education. These disruptions do impact on that. You find then that students are not able, like I know of many parents who are calling, my child is supposed to be in his 5th year engineering. His classmates who went elsewhere are actually graduating.
Yep.
This one is still in 4th year because of these disruptions. It does in a way affect the quality, but not so much in my view, because we have syllabus that is supposed to be covered. If a student is able to cover the hours that he's meant to cover with the teacher, hours is supposed to cover with practice. If you're doing the practicals or the hands-on, you're still able to cover them. The only thing that it does affect is that it takes you a little longer. It may take you a little longer to finish your academic program.
More expensive.
And more expensive in terms of what you have to pay, what your parents are supposed to chip in, and so on and so forth. And then psychological also, the student is affected. Because it's I was in class with you in Thika High, for example. We sat and did the same KCSE exam. I went to Strathmore, and you chose to join University of Nairobi. Then you see me after a short while in Strathmore, I'm graduating.
It's going to do a number on you, for sure.
Yes, and you are still. So psychologically, this student will be hit. And that would affect, of course, his...
Is that a ticking time bomb?
Yes.
It is.
It is.
It's sad that we have to negotiate for something that one would imagine would be so, cut and dry in terms of what needs to happen. It's our hope that this can be resolved, and that it's a hope that we have to keep it alive, that it can actually be sorted, because it's not political. It's, in terms of what needs to be done, it's not political. We understand that the politics of it is being used to draw this out. But it's our hope that this system can get back to working right. And we'll keep highlighting it until it does.
Yes.
Dr. Charles Mungai, thank you for being here this morning.
Yes, thank you so much. In fact, I want to assure you and the public, there's a lot of discussions going on this matter. A lot. We are concerned that we need to get this issue resolved once and for all. When we last sat down with our social partners, the employers and the government, particularly the university councils, we did agree at the point where we're disagreeing that you are proposing 3-phase payment plan. We want one payment plan.
Right.
That was our point of departure. At that point of departure, we did agree on one thing. That everybody should now go out there, lobby, consult, with a view of bringing this matter to a closure.
Get it fixed.
So they are doing their bit. Us, we are also doing a bit. And we are consulting at very, very, very high levels of the government in this country. We told our employers, you guys may be afraid of talking to who you need to talk to. We will do it. So we don't know how far they have gone, but I can assure, even as we sit right now, we are going to Parliament right now. Remember, I was telling Evelyn, maybe my time may not be allowing, but as from 11 o'clock, we're in Parliament trying to present this particular matter. Tomorrow, we'll be meeting other agencies to try and fast-track this process. So there are indications that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel.
Please do keep us informed of the progress. It's also, we have a responsibility also to follow up and to make sure that folks who are definitely involved then have an answer.
We will.
Thank you so much for being here this morning, and also thank you for being here with us on the Situation Room this Tuesday. Asante Sana, those conversations necessary for us to have, and we'll have them every day. Ndu Dennis and Dennis with you this morning. Have a good day.
Dennis.
The double Dennises. 2 minutes past 10. Good morning.
Thank you so much.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. President William Ruto is in Doha, Qatar, for the Second World Summit for Social Development organized by the United Nations. The UN said 14,000 delegates are expected to attend the 3-day